Yeah, Frank here has got his own billiard room.
Yes, it's what do you call it, Kramer?
Billiard room.
No, not billiard, not the billiards. It was
Billiards room.
Come on already. Come on, we call it the
place to be.
The place to be. Yes, the place to be.
Then I shall be there.
Now, it's time. Live and in living color.
The Grandy Man can.
Time to play the game.
Well, you always left me satisfied and smiling, so.
That's what she said.
Why do I want this? I want to make bank, bro. I want to get ass. I want to drive a Range Rover.
Place to be Nation, Scott Criscola and Justin Rosero. This is the Place to Be Podcast.
Very nice, Mr. Crisbola.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis.
And then they trash him and say he's a fucking pill-popping, pothead or whatever when he left.
Fuck you, Daddy.
I don't know what the fuck the Department of Health is.
To do worse than Josh Richard.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to another great episode of the one and only Place to Be Podcast. I am your co-host, Justin Rosero, coming at you live from deep inside the PTB Man Cave. And I am all fired up, and I think everyone else on the show tonight is as well. And of course, it is our NFL preview show, and to do that, I need to bring in the man who's always ready to hit the field and take the field and hit some guys. My PIC, Scott Criscolo. Scott, how you doing?
JR, how are you?
Good. Ready to take
It's
the field.
I am ready to take the field.
Okay.
This is, by the way, welcome PTB Nation to number 156 of the Place to Be podcast. I'm always excited when I'm on the air. I was like that 10 years in radio, and for the 155 you and I have been together, I just love talking about anything. Of course, 87% of what we do is wrestling, but once in a while, we walk out of the ring and run onto the field, and I am so jacked.
Yeah, and this year we will do like we did last year. We're going to do our weekly picks or
Yep.
weekly predictions every week, coming off usually on Wednesdays. We're going to do them after the summer throwback or / headlines. We'll be working those in. So, Scott, we have a special guest this year, though, to help us do our preview show.
What?
That is, of course, the one and only, the great, the man who got stellar reviews for his appearance on WrestleMania 13 Vintage Vault. That is Kyle Forchetti. Kyle, welcome back.
This is my favorite time of year. This is the perfect time you want to be talking to me because I'm on cloud nine right now.
Kyle is fired
Yes.
up. Him and Scott are trying to keep their cowboy erections in their pants as we talk about football tonight, and we'll be saving their division for last so they can build and build and build before exploding upon all of you with their cowboy talk.
But you will get your gangrene moment, JR. You will get your.
I don't know if I want it.
Well, we'll get to it. All right, but I have to hear it, JR. I have to hear it. Do you have it ready?
No, I don't. We talk for hours in pre-production, and now you spring on me. You just want me to have some random clip.
I don't care. Play anything. That's right. All right. Maybe I'll do I'm not going to hum the theme. Forget it. All right. Was hoping for actually, it is the official picks theme, or the predictions theme, which we only play when we do the picks. So, all right. We're going to start. We're going to break down all the divisions. What we're going to do tonight, we're going to break down all 8 divisions, give you our thoughts on the teams. Kyle, of course, will give his input as well. We'll give you our MVP, our Rookie of the Year. And I'll tell you something, guys. Good crop of rookies this year. A veritable cornucopia of picks for Rookie of the Year. Coach of the Year. Some new coaches are around as well.
North Turner,
and then,
always.
North Turner, yeah.
Yeah.
How he's still eligible to be Coach of the Year is beyond recognition.
Should have a lifetime ban.
Yeah. And then we will give you our playoff predictions. We'll go through our own personal brackets. We'll give you our 6 seeds in the AFC and NFC. And then we will give you our Super Bowl 40. Jesus, what number is it now? I used to remember. The number used to be so easy to remember. Kyle, what is it this year? 46?
Believe it's 43. Is it?
No, it's more than that because the Pats and Giants was 42, the first one.
The first one. That was 07. So it has to be.
I think it's 46.
I think it is
46. Yeah, Super Bowl 46 in at the Superdome in New Orleans in January. And,
well, you know what? I'm a typical Cowboys fan. I'm living in the past, I guess.
Yes, you still wish it was Super Bowl 30. That's for sure.
Yeah, 30. What was it, Kyle? 6-12. 27, 28, 30.
Followed by who cares? All right, let's start off with the AFC West, gentlemen. We all
Yes.
know the teams there. Let's start with the Chiefs. Actually, Scott, I'll let you throw it. Do you have the standings from last year? You want to go reverse order, or do you want to do it?
Let's see. Well, I have the regular season. I have the 0. We'll just go the way that it is here on the Find website, NFL.com. Let's start with the Raiders in Oakland, the silver and black attack. I like them. I like them this year. I think they're a lot more balanced. Carson Palmer has struggled so far this preseason. A lot of people still think he doesn't quite fit in the offense. I disagree. But when you got a guy like Darren McFadden, who's going to come back running with a vengeance after the injury last year, I think they're going to be a good pound and ground, time possession type offense. And their defense already hits well. It's improved over the last couple of years. For this division, I think they're going to win it. I don't know. JR, what do you think?
I don't think they're going to win the division, but I think they'll be good. They were pretty good last year. Like you said, McFadden got hurt, but they still had Michael Bush running, and he had a strong year. But Bush is gone now, and McFadden's back. And you got to wonder, though, can he stay healthy? I like Carson Palmer. I like their receiving core. So, I think they're going to be an improved team. I don't know if they're going to surpass Denver or San Diego. And they got a pretty tough schedule. I mean, they got to go to Atlanta, to Baltimore. They host the Saints. They go to the Bengals. So, and that's in addition to the couple of division games. They're home for Pittsburgh as well. So, kind of a tough schedule. I see them maybe, if everything breaks right, they could probably get to 10-6. But I see them more maybe 8-8, 9-7. How about you, Kyle?
Yeah, I think you touched on it. I think it comes down to the health of Darren McFadden. He's their workhorse. They got rid of Michael Bush, so he's gonna be toting the rock. And if he stays healthy, it gives them a chance. And Carson Palmer, when they made the trade for him, he started out kind of slow because he didn't have his timing down with his receivers. He wasn't familiar with the personnel. But I think as time went on, he actually had a pretty strong finish to last year in 2011. So if they can kind of build on that, and I saw, their defensive line firsthand go up against the Cowboys because they played them week 1 in the preseason. And player to watch I really like is Lamar Houston from Texas. He's a solid D lineman. So they have some talented players on the defensive side of the ball. So that'll give them a chance.
Okay, and so we all three of us think the Raiders will have a pretty good year. I might be a little more optimistic, but that's okay. Let's move on now to.
Well, somehow you always end up with every team in the division and going like 10-6, and nobody has a losing record. So
yeah. All right, let's move on to a team that should probably win this division every year, and always finds a way to either eke by or not do it at all. And we all know why, and that's the San Diego Chargers. Probably player for player have the most talent, but probably have the worst coach, and they just never seem to. They never seem to turn the corner and be a Super Bowl winning team, even a Super Bowl participant. Kyle, is this it, do you think, for Norv Turner and Phillip Rivers?
we say that every year.
I know we do.
I really think it is. I don't know about Phillip Rivers because I think if you surround him with the right pieces, I think I would give him, I say he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, maybe top 12. He's at that maybe second, third tier. So I'm okay with Phillip Rivers. But, Robert Meacham is your number 1 wide receiver. When he had Drew Brees as his quarterback, he wasn't that productive. They gave him opportunities. He was a first-round pick. And I'm not a believer in their receiving core. And Antonio Gates hasn't been able to stay healthy. Ryan Matthews is already hurt. So a lot of question marks with that football team. I don't see them winning the division again. Maybe I see them winning between 6 and 8 games.
Yeah, I don't see them winning the division either. I think Denver's going to win the division. But I think San Diego will be in the mix. I think with them in Oakland, it's going to come down to the head-to-heads, If they split, maybe both teams go 8-8, 9-7. If one team can sweep the other, maybe they get a bump. And San Diego's schedule is a little bit easier than Oakland's is somehow. So, same thing, same concerns as Kyle. I really don't like the receiving core. They took a pretty big hit losing Vincent Jackson and I'm losing, not Michael Vincent, but who's the other Vincent? Vincent Brown is already injured as well, so who knows if he can stay healthy. And like you said about Ryan Matthews. Now, Mike Tolbert's gone, so, a big chunk of their major players on their offense. And Gates, we got to see if he can finally stay healthy as well. The defense should be good. They drafted, help me out, Kyle, what's the guy's name? I know he's a defensive player. It was...
what's his name?
I'm drawing a blank.
I know you're talking because I wanted the Cowboys to draft him. What was?
Yeah, he was in that mix with like Chandler Jones and Coples and all the guys, like I know the Jets were rumored to be looking at. Hey, I'm trying to look at the depth chart, so I'm sure everyone's like, "What the hell?" Do some research, but
this is the This is the Chargers, but well,
go ahead.
While we're looking that up, while we're looking up the Charger draft pick, let's move on to the team that JR mentioned he likes to win the division, and that is the Denver Broncos, who of course made the biggest single transaction splash of the offseason, picking up the departed Peyton Manning from Indianapolis. So the days of playing like 11 games in the comfy 72-degree indoors goes out the window as, come December at home in big games, Yeah,
his career record for indoor versus outdoor is pretty glaring.
Yeah, it's pretty glaring. And, this is Denver, folks. He may get 3 home games in decent weather. I've never been there, so I don't know what the weather, how the patterns are, but I would assume by early November it gets pretty cold. And, they play a lot of, late afternoon games, so that it'll get dark. And, as we know in history.
Well, it's not late afternoon there.
Well, no, but it gets, it
gets very dark.
In the wintertime,
right? Yeah.
In the wintertime, the sun goes down. And think of all the games he's played in New England that he, screwed the pooch, 4 picks and crappy snow and stuff. And so this is an interesting situation for them. I'm not totally sold on the defense. I think the defense is I like Von Miller, but I think secondary I think might struggle a little bit. And Peyton's got to get acclimated with this offense. He doesn't have the Reggie Waynes and these guys and the Marvin Harrisons that are gimme receivers. He's dealing with some guys that he hasn't worked with except for a few games. It's going to be a struggle for them early, and I don't know if they can afford that with teams like Oakland, who might get some early wins.
Melvin Ingram was a guy the Chargers took.
Right.
Melvin Ingram,
he's a beast.
Alabama, right?
Yeah. South Carolina.
South Carolina. I knew it was an SEC team. Kyle, what do you think of the Broncos?
I think Peyton Manning is one of those players where he just makes everybody around him better, and you saw what Tim Tebow did with that team last year, and it's exciting to think what Peyton will do for players like Eric Decker or Demaryius Thomas. I just think that if that offensive line holds up, they give Peyton time. I really think they are going to win the division this year just because Peyton Manning, when he chose to go to the AFC West, he didn't think that it was one of the weakest divisions in the NFL. So I think that Denver's going to take that division. I see them going 10-6 because, like you said, Peyton really doesn't have a great record outdoors as opposed to playing inside domes and that sort. So I think they are going to win the division. I do have questions on the defensive side of the ball also, but I do like Von Miller and a couple. Obviously, Champ Bailey is still playing at a high level, so we'll see what happens. But I definitely think they're going to take that division.
I do too. I think it's going to be. It was big last year, though. Last year, 3 teams finished 8-8, and then Kansas City was 7-9. So a lot of parity, and I think it's going to be the same. I think Manning's going to be probably better than people think, but I don't think he's going to be the Peyton Manning we all know. His weapons are a little bit lesser than what he had in Indy. Yeah, they still have good weapons, like you said, Decker and Thomas. All of a sudden going from having Tebow throwing some to Manning is going to be like a whole new world for them. And I think McGay, he's going to benefit as well. So, and their defense was solid enough. They wore down late. But I like John Fox. I think he's the best coach in the division by far. So I think that plays a role as well in my eyes, anyway. So I think they have a good year. And I think they win, just like the other 2 teams, right in that 9-10 win range. And I really think that these teams are all going to be separated by a game, maybe 2 at the most.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at their schedule right now, and here is where Peyton has to go the last, shall we say, 8 games of the season. At Carolina, home to San Diego, at Kansas City, home to Tampa Bay, at Oakland, at Baltimore. And then back-to-back home games to end the year against the Browns and Chiefs. Right. So those last 2 games in freezing weather, probably.
That's not get out of. That's not. He's not playing in the Arctic. I mean, it's not gonna be. It's not gonna be below 0 for guaranteed in mid-December in Denver. I mean, it could just be. It might be cold, but I think you're over dramatizing that just a little bit. And he's at Baltimore maybe a little chilly as well. But before that, those other games you mentioned, like home for Tampa in the early December, that should be fine. And at Oakland, obviously, is going to be fine. So I don't know. Well, I think this is getting a little overplayed. I think you're acting like he's going to play in Antarctica.
Well, the opponents are a big difference too, because they're ending the year at home with Cleveland and Kansas City, which are easy wins. So I'm just saying, just keep an eye on it. But no, they're not playing. It's not like they're playing in Greenland or something. Just something to keep an eye out for.
Sorry to interrupt. you want to look at the strength of schedule from last year, and statistically, Denver actually has the toughest schedule if you go by combined win-loss records from last year. But there's so much parity in the NFL.
Right. It doesn't look that hard.
Change. Yeah, so many things change on a year-to-year basis. So, yeah, it's easy to say, Denver has the second toughest schedule, but we really don't know what's going to happen.
Right. All right, let's wrap up the division quickly with the Kansas City Chiefs. They still got a lot of problems. Offense struggled. Matt Castle got there and made a little bit of an impact, but then he got hurt. Obviously, Jamal Charles is a spark plug in that offense, but he's coming off an injury. JR, what do you think of the Chefs?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really buy into them. I don't like Romeo Crennel as a coach. I know he had a pretty good year last year. He got the kind of turned around and going a little bit, but I'm not a big Matt Castle fan. I think Jamal Charles will come back kind of strong. I actually like Peyton Hillis there. I think he's going to have a good year. He's reunited with a coordinator that was with him in Cleveland, and they like to run. So I'm not going to say they're a sleeper team. They actually had a pretty good defense as well. Dwayne Bowe is back in the fold after holding out. And, they're going to be serviceable. And I've said, I know I sound like a broken record, keep repeating myself, but I really think these four teams are just going to be all bunched together, and it's going to be very similar to last year, where they all finished, within one game of each other.
Kyle, what do you think?
The Kansas City Chiefs will make the playoffs.
What?
Write it down.
Get out of here.
They had the worst luck last year in the NFL. They lost Eric Berry. They lost Matt Castle. They lost Jamal Charles. They lost Tony Moeaki. They had the worst luck last year. I think that when they have,
so you're saying they're going to get a wild card?
They are going to make it as a wild card. They are one of my wild card teams. I just love the firepower that they have on offense. I think if Dwayne Bowe has a solid year, I know he was holding out and now he's in camp, but I like their other receiver, John Baldwin. He has a chance to be a good player. He had a pretty decent camp. So they're getting so many pieces back. You want to think, if it all comes together, they could have a pretty solid year. They're a couple years, from being in the playoffs. So they just really got the injury bug bad last year.
All right, let's do this, Kyle. I'm going to go Mike and the Mad Dog on you. I'm going to read the schedule. I want gut win or loss, okay?
All right.
We're not going to dissect the game, just win or loss. Scott, you keep track.
All
right. Home for Atlanta.
Loss.
All right. At Buffalo.
I'll give them a win.
Really? Buffalo's tough at home early. They're going to be completely healthy. Mario Williams, everything else?
It's the Bills, man.
All right. At New Orleans.
Oh, that's a loss.
Home for San Diego.
I'll give them a win. They played the Chargers tough.
All right. Home for Baltimore.
Loss.
All right. At Tampa.
Win.
Home for Oakland.
Win.
At San Diego.
I'd say they split. Loss.
Okay. At Pittsburgh.
Loss.
Home for Cincy.
I'll give them a win.
Home for Denver.
Loss.
Home for Carolina.
Win.
At Cleveland.
Win.
At Oakland.
Win.
So you having them sweep in Oakland?
Yeah, I'm not that big on the Raiders.
Okay. Home for Indy.
Win.
At Denver.
Loss.
All right, what's that, Scott?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 7.
Okay,
The
so
Chiefs are going to the playoffs.
get out of here. So
You have them winning 4 of their last 5 games. That's pretty hot.
Okay, well, they have a pretty weak end of the schedule, but the swing games to me for them are home for Cincy. That's a big game. That might determine a wild card between both those teams. Yeah. I think home for Carolina could be a swing game, and then obviously they have to at least win 4 out of the 6 in the division. So they got to sweep either Oakland, Denver, or San Diego. So I mean, they could be in the conversation, but and you're giving that Buffalo win too, which I'm not handing to them.
I'm not either.
And Tampa's going to be better too this year.
We'll see.
It's Tampa. I think there's a lot of swing room for this team, and I think you can say this about most teams, but I think there's a lot of swing room between 6 and 10 and 10 and 6 for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so just to recap, both JR and Kyle like the Broncos to win the division. I like Oakland, and Kyle has his first AFC wildcard team, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right. Well, let's do complete order. So I'm going to say Denver, Oakland, San Diego, KC.
Okay.
Kyle?
Denver, Kansas City, San Diego, Oakland.
Wow. Okay. I like Oakland, Denver, Kansas City, San Diego. I think the Chargers are going to bottom out, and Norv will finally get the boot.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I think it's hard for them to bottom out with Rivers, but it's possible.
Let's look ahead to 2013. JR, is this Norv Turner's last year?
Right, I know. We're sitting here the same thing next year doing this.
All right, let's move on to the AFC South.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll start off with a team that you and I, JR, are really in love with. We loved them last year, and I think we both have good feelings about them this year, and that is the Houston Texans. They are loaded. They had a great team last year, and the injury bug, bit them, ate them up, chewed them up, and spit them out.
Yes.
Guys were getting hurt left and right. And meanwhile, they were one pass away, one underthrown Ed Reed pick away from beating the Ravens in Baltimore.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier, Scott, on our pre-production. I mean, they were dinged up. They had the third-string rookie quarterback in there. And, Andre Johnson barely played the whole year. And, defense, they were dinged up. And then, like you said, they went into Baltimore and almost pulled that game out. And I think if they were fully healthy that whole year, I think they're Super Bowl champions. I think they would have beaten Baltimore. I think they could have beaten New England as well. So I think they would have thrown and ran all over New England.
I think so too. I think this team is loaded. Schaub's back. Arian Foster, Tate. You got a great running back. You have a great running back tandem. The defense, even without Mario Williams, the defense is solid. I'm picking this team to win 13 games.
Oh,
13-3 for the Texans. They're going to beat up this division. We'll talk more about these other teams in a bit, but they're going to beat this division up. Kyle, what do you think of the Texans?
Wade Phillips, really? Like you couldn't do this in 2010?
Nope.
Seriously? He's made to be a D coordinator. He's one of the best, So no, I'm totally with you. They're gonna win. They're gonna steamroll this division. They're getting their quarterback back, and they have the best running game in the NFL. They have, arguably the best receiver. You could argue with Calvin Johnson, but Andre's right up there if he's when healthy. And their defense, man, they're young, but they're so talented with Brooks Reed. I know they lost Mario Williams, but Cushing's a player. They have Jonathan Joseph in the secondary, so they have a special player on all three levels of their defense. So I really I think they're going to continue their momentum. And T.J. Yates, man, they're in the playoffs with T.J. Yates,
and they almost won. They almost won. In Baltimore is impossible to win at, and they almost went in there and beat them.
Baltimore, they had no business winning that game. Baltimore, they gave them they gave Houston every opportunity to win that game, and they couldn't get the job done. So yeah, I definitely have Houston. I say between 11 and 13 games as well.
Okay.
I don't think they go quite 13-3. Just looking, they have one stretch. The stretch is going to make or break them from being like an elite, bye in the first round, maybe home field advantage team. They go at the Jets on a Monday night, home for Green Bay, home for Baltimore. So that's a good stretch right there. Jets are Monday, Green Bay Sunday night. So that's 3 tough games, and then they have a bye, and then they're home for Buffalo. And then after that, they go to Detroit and they go to New England. So those are the remaining 2 tough games. But this is a team where, like last year, if they can take care of business and go like 5-1 in the division, they should be in good shape. So I like Houston to probably win between 10 and 12.
Okay. All right, let's talk about the other 3 teams. So let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Always things controversy and drama swirling around them. Maurice Jones-Drew wants more money. There's always rumors of them leaving, being the team going to L.A. It's always a mess. Last year, the offense was horrendous, even with him. Blaine Gabbert just couldn't get anything going. He hasn't looked bad in the preseason, but I still think they're gonna have a lot of struggles. I actually see them picking up the rear in this division. Kyle, what do you think?
The Jacksonville Jaguars are now on the clock. That's exactly what it's going to be. They're going to get the number 1 overall pick. I completely hate this team. I mean, it seems like they're doing everything wrong. But, their best player is holding out. They signed LaRon Robinson in the offseason to be a number 1 receiver when he's not a number 1 receiver. So I think they're allocating their resources in the wrong areas. And, Blaine Gabbert, I'm not a believer right now. I know they kind of threw him into the fire last year. But unless he makes some remarkable strides, I don't see them making that much noise. I do like Justin Blackmon, though, so I expect him to...
Yeah, I think they're hoping Robinson is like a stopgap number 1. I think they expect Blackmon to turn into that, within the next year or so.
Yeah, so I like Blackmon, and, Robinson can fill in, if needed. They have that veteran there, but I'm not digging the Jacksonville Jaguars.
JR, what do you think?
I think they're getting a little bit better, and Malarkey's going to go in there and try and clean things up a little bit, but they're not better than the top 2 teams in the division, so I don't see them challenging really for the wild card or anything. But I think they're going to be a little bit improved. I mean, I think they'll be okay. What they finished last year, 5-11. Maybe they get to 6 or 7 wins. I think Gabbert, he's looked better in the preseason this year than he did last year, and MJD's holding out, but I think Rashad Jennings can hold his own until MJD comes back. And they've already said that they're not really going to probably even sit MJD much. But as we saw last year, Chris Johnson, that holdout can really, can really hurt guys. So, I don't see them being any kind of true contender, but they can be a frisky team. They can play spoiler late. They're going to Buffalo, home for the Jets, home for New England, at Tennessee. So, once again, they can play spoiler those last few weeks.
Yeah, they're in full rebuilding mode right now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the Tennessee Titans. We just talked about Chris Johnson, hoping he'll have a rebound year. Jake Locker is your starting quarterback, and I watched him a lot in college. My client carried a lot of college games, so I got to see a lot of these guys the last couple of years. Jake Locker is one of these solid drop back guys. They do have obviously a capable backup, Matt Hasselbeck. I think they'll be all right. I think they'll win. I think they could win maybe 8 games, maybe. I think if the schedule kind of turns right for them. I think Jake Locker's going to have a pretty good year. He'll throw some bad picks and cost him some games, but I think overall he'll make them much improved on offense. So I think the Titans could be third. I don't think they're going to be worse than Jacksonville.
Oh, no. I like Tennessee. I think they can challenge for the playoff spot. The only thing that may sink them, and it kind of hurt the Jets last year, and there's a few other teams too that got burnt by this, they have a very hard start to their schedule. So if they get in too big of a hole, it may be hard for them to dig out of. I like Locker, too. I think he instantly makes them better. I've always liked Hasselbeck, but I think Locker is going to bring a lot of energy to that franchise. Kenny Britt plays a big role as well. Is he finally going to stay healthy and out of trouble, and can he give them a full year? I love Jared Cook. I think he's a very good player, very good tight end. And Ringer and Chris Johnson, a very good running back. But early on, they got New England, San Diego, Detroit, Houston, and then Pittsburgh week 5. So, I mean, that is a hard, they can be looking at 1-4 very easily. So, they're going to have to step up and win a couple of those games. They can come out and make a statement if they can beat New England at home week 1. I mean, they could, if they really want to step up and assert themselves. But, it's going to be tough. They got a tough schedule, but I think they will finish second in the division. I think if they can get their shit together and sweep Houston or even split with Houston and sweep the rest, they can be there at the end.
Okay. Kyle, what do you think of the Titans?
I think Tennessee is going to be one of those teams where their record is going to be worse than it was last year, but they're going to be better as a team. It's hard to believe that they won 9 games last year. A lot of people forget that. They were very close to making the playoffs last year, but I think they're going to have maybe 7 or 8 wins this year, but they're actually going to be better as a team. So I think they're making strides. Obviously, they're going with Locker as the guy. And, Chris Johnson looks to be his old self, as opposed to the holdout last year. And, they have a pretty solid offensive line. So I think if they don't overwhelm Locker too much and they don't put the game in his hands, they don't make him have to win the game all the time, I think it gives them a chance. They need to be a solid running football team. I don't think they're going to win if Locker's throwing it, 30, 35 times every game. So I think if they can run the football, play solid defense, I think they could definitely contend for a wild card spot.
Okay, and finally, the team everybody's looking forward to watching this year, just based on what they did with their first pick, and that's the Indianapolis Colts. The Peyton Manning era ended. The Andrew Luck era begins. I don't think they're going to be horrendous. They looked okay towards the tail end of last season. They had a lot of tackles. They had a lot of the linebackers busted their tail. The secondary busted their tail. It's because the front four couldn't give up, couldn't stop anybody. With Reggie Wayne back, I think Andrew Luck will be okay. I honestly think they're going to finish better than Jacksonville, but they'll probably finish third, in my opinion. Kyle, what do you think of the Colts?
Yeah, I feel really bad for Luck this year. I mean, he's getting thrown to the fire with a rebuilding football team, and Reggie Wayne is on the downside of his career. I like Fleener. Obviously, they have that connection from Stanford, but man, that defense. And I know they just traded for Vontae Davis from Miami. I think that was a good move. I think they really got the better end of that trade. He's a pretty.
They need to lock him up though, because he's only got 2 years left, and he's only 24, I think, right, 25. So they're not going to contend now. So if they, I'm not really sure about the move unless they're going to lock him up. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I think it was a solid move for them because they had a lot of question marks in the secondary. But man, I feel like Luck is going to try and do too much this year, just because there's not a lot of talent around him. So I think statistically he may have an okay year, but I think to be a lot on his plate this year. So I don't see them contending for the playoffs. They're obviously in full rebuilding mode right now, but Luck is going to be a good player in time. It's just not going to happen right now.
I agree with you. I think Luck's going to be good. I was surprised when Reggie Wayne stayed there, and I think Donald Brown's kind of poised for a bit of a breakout year. And like you said about Fleener with the, with the ties there with Luck and Stanford, and looking at their schedule, it's not bad early. They could be sitting at 3-3, going into Tennessee, week 6. So I don't know. And they're at Chicago, pig that for a loss. Minnesota at home, they could probably win. Jacksonville at home, maybe. Green Bay and the Jets back to back. Maybe they lose both of those, and then home for Cleveland. So they could be 3-3, go to Miami, and then. Who knows? So I think they're a chance to be a little bit frisky. I think they're going to be better than the 2-14. But to talk about a significant win jump to make the playoffs, I mean, they'd have to win, 6 to 7 more games alone. So that's a big, big jump for a team that didn't improve that dramatically talent-wise. So I think going from 2 wins to even 5 wins would be huge for them, 5 to 6 wins at the most. So I think that's a very good improvement for them to turn around that quickly. But if Luck's the franchise guy, then he can get them there. So I think maybe they finish a game back of Jacksonville or tied with Jacksonville.
Okay. All right, so I think we're all in consensus that the Texans are the class of this division. JR, any wild cards out of here?
No.
Okay. Who do you like top to bottom?
Houston, Tennessee, and then we'll say Jacksonville and Indy. I guess that order are tied around there.
Okay. Kyle, what's your order for the South?
I'll go Houston, Tennessee, Indy, Jacksonville.
Okay, and I'm going to actually agree with you top to bottom. I like Houston as well. I like Tennessee. I like the Colts, and then I like Jacksonville picking up the rear. All right, let's go now to what I think, just in terms of beating the crap out of each other, is the toughest division in the AFC, and that's the North. JR always says he gets his predictions right. Well, I got my one right last year, and I said the Ravens would sweep Pittsburgh and win the division,
that was
which
a good
they
prediction.
did.
You also gloated too much about the Denver one and acted like you actually predicted something, even though they won at 8-8 over 16 different tiebreakers, got them in the playoffs.
I know. But I'll take the Joe Flacco one. And he was one dropped pass away. It's funny. Houston was one underthrown pick away from beating the Ravens, and then the Ravens were one dropped touchdown pass away from going to the Super Bowl.
I don't know how you recover, honestly, from that loss. I don't know how they did it. I mean,
and I honestly feel bad for Billy Cundiff.
Yeah.
I know he missed the field goal, but you know what? He shouldn't have had to kick a field goal. They should have won the game outright.
Yeah, Lee Evans was the GOAT in that game.
You don't catch a pass in the AFC Championship like a loaf of friggin' bread.
Right.
You tuck that sucker in and fall.
Yeah.
Crazy. Anyway.
It's got cut, yeah.
Well,
Cundiff just signed somewhere, didn't he?
Yeah.
Washington, I think. Yeah, Washington.
Okay. Well, good for him.
Let's talk about the Ravens. I'm a big Joe Flacco fan. I've been from when he was at Delaware. He mouthed off a little bit in the offseason saying he was elite this and elite that, and he's obviously not yet.
Like Eli.
He's not the kind of guy who statistically puts up 350-yard games, usually throws between like 210 and 240. But when you got Ray Rice racking up 200 yards of total offense, you don't need to do that. You had an interesting comment, JR. You and I talked about the Ravens. Was it you that told me that you thought Ray Rice might be 1 year that he steps back a bit? Was it you that I was talking that?
Yeah, I just said maybe. I thought he's been getting so much of the workload lately and he seems to never get hurt or miss a game. So I don't know. I just wouldn't be shocked if he got dinged up a little bit, but I wouldn't bank on it. I mean, the guy's just a horse. I don't know what to think of Baltimore. I can see them going 14-2. I can see them going 9-7. I don't know. They're a weird team to me.
Yeah. What do you think of the Ravens, Kyle?
Man, well, I graduated from Rutgers, and I did some interning with their strength and conditioning coaching staff when Ray Rice was getting ready for the draft. He did his combine at Rutgers, his pro day, and man, he was just the coolest down to earth guy. And I was so happy when he got his contract extension because it was definitely warranted. But the shelf life of an NFL running back is so short. So. And he's maxed out his expectations like crazy in the NFL. So, I don't know if he's going to get any better than he is right now. But it seems like when it comes to the Ravens, that there are so many players that are ready to break out. Like they talk about Flacco, like you said. They talk about Torrey Smith, the wide receiver. They think he's going to have a breakout year. And then they have Bolden on the opposite side of him. Their offensive line is in great shape. And the only question I have is their defense because Terrell Suggs, he's on the PUP list, so he's going to miss the first 6 weeks of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is a big loss.
And who knows even if he was going to come back from that after that?
Yeah. They don't know. And Ed Reed, he's contemplating retirement every day, and Ray Lewis is a year older, so there are some question marks on the defensive side of the ball. But I think that if you surround Joe Flacco with the right pieces, I think he could have a successful year, but I don't think he can carry a team.
No, I like their tight ends too. I think Ed Dixon's going to have another good year as well. And, Bolin and Smith, to me, can be such boom or bust. I feel like these two guys can either disappear or really break the game open. And I think it's going to come down to these, same thing as last year with them in Pittsburgh. If one team can sweep the other, that's the team that's going to advance. If they split, then it's going to come down to a lot of other factors. They play later this year. If you remember last year, I think, didn't they play like week 2 or 3 or something crazy like that?
Who, the Ravens and
Steelers?
They played like week 2, and then they played
week 1.
And then they played like
that's right.
Week
it was
11
week
or
1.
something.
You're right.
Yeah, they blew out
like
Pittsburgh.
And so this year they don't play till about, I think it's like week 11. It's at Pittsburgh on a Sunday night, November 18th, and then they play again December 2nd, 3 games later. Or actually, there's only one game in between.
2 games. Yeah, they play twice in 3 weeks.
Yeah,
that's weird.
So that's going to be big right there. So that'll tell a lot once again. So I'm going to put Baltimore in that 11-win range, and I think them and Pittsburgh. We can just jump right to Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh, their biggest weakness is their offensive line. Now, they drafted David DeCastro. He's gone for the year. Major blow to them. But, they keep plugging away, and they keep sticking guys in there. Roethlisberger just rumbles over guys. Rashad Mendenhall, we'll see if he can bounce back at all from that injury at the end of the year. He didn't do much late. Mike Wallace back in camp now, but how much will the holdout affect him? I love Antonio Brown. Their defense is still very good. So I put them at Baltimore in that same little group. I'd say between 10 to 12 wins, and they'll be dogfighting right to the end.
They get an interesting first few games, too. They open at Denver on Sunday night. Then they host your Jets. And then they're at Oakland. And then they got an early bye. And that's bad for the Steelers because you talk about a rough offensive line. And, Ben Roethlisberger played, the last 7 games last year with a really bad ankle. His blind side is not protected well again. So to not have a week off in those late November, those late games in November, they play the Giants, they play the Ravens twice, they play the Cowboys.
Well, yeah, see, their tough stretch comes in the middle, but they finish up kind of soft, and Baltimore's kind of the other way around. So, it could be that if Pittsburgh can stay healthy at the end there, they could use some of those games. San Diego, but Dallas, and Cincy and Cleveland. They got Cleveland before the in between that Baltimore game, whereas Baltimore is San Diego in between. So, it'll be tough. I really think these two teams are pretty even. How about you, Kyle?
And Pitt just lost, what's that, DeCastro.
Yeah,
also.
DeCastro, yep.
So they have a lot of questions on that offensive line, and if they can't keep Big Ben upright, I don't see them making the playoffs this year. Honestly, I see them taking a nosedive. I see them winning 8 or 9 games.
I think we say that every year, though, and then there he is.
Oh, I know. Whether you hate Big Ben or you love him, he's one of the toughest players in the NFL. So, he's going to fight through injury if allowed by the training staff. But, man, I have them finishing 3rd in the division. I don't have them winning I don't have them making the playoffs. There are too many question marks. Their defense is old. They should be in a nursing home. I don't believe in that defense at all. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I really think it's one of those deals to be the man, you're going to beat the man. Until they prove me wrong, I'm just going to ride them. So it's like John Cena with my WWF WWE predictions. It's like, until he loses and proves me wrong, I'm just going to ride the gravy train. So, Pittsburgh is kind of that team in that division, and I know Baltimore bested them last year, but until you prove for a couple of years that they're not going to at least be in contention for the playoffs, I can't have Cincy pass them until they prove they can do it, just in my mind. And so I know we'll get to Cincy in a minute, but Scott, I don't know if you feel the same way.
I have my opinion is kind of a hybrid of both you guys. I think Pittsburgh's going to struggle a lot this year as well, but they're not going to go down without a fight. And I think it's going to be a battle for second in the division with our next team, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm looking at the schedule. And first of all, I love Andy Dalton. Again, another guy that I watched extensively in college. My client covered TCU football for 3 years. So I watched in 3 years, I probably watched like 9 of his games, 10 of his games. The guy is a leader. He's a born leader. And look at this stretch that Cincinnati has to start the season. They open at Baltimore, tough game. But look at this 5-game stretch. Home to Cleveland, at Washington, at Jacksonville, home to Miami, at Cleveland. So by the time they play the Steelers on October 21st, they could be 5-1.
All right,
Could be
let's slow the roll a little bit. First of all, I followed Dalton very closely last year, and I like him. I think he's going to be good, but there's just a little something just missing. I don't know what it is. They lost Cedric Benson. They picked up Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, which I think was a pretty good swap. I love AJ Green. I think he's a monster. I don't know. Is there something from that team? I don't know. Even if they go, I'm going to say they could go maybe 4-2. I think at Washington is actually a tougher game than you're maybe giving credit for. But Cleveland, Jacksonville, Miami, Cleveland, of course, are all winnable games. But do they always sweep Cleveland? I feel like those teams always split.
Yeah, I get that feeling too.
I feel like they always play each other tough, those two teams. And I don't think Cleveland's going to be very good this year. But you can say that they're going to be sitting there at 5-1 or 4-2. Then they got Pittsburgh, Denver, the Giants, the Chiefs, Oakland, San Diego all in a row. Then Dallas, Philly, and they finish with at Pitt and home for Baltimore. So it's going to be a tough finish for them. And even if they start 4-2, 5-1, it's going to be tough to get another 5 wins out of those last group of games. So I see them being right where they were last year, around 9-7. Kyle,
what do you think of the Bengals?
Other than AJ Green, I mean, I think there are a number of question marks at the receiver position. And Gresham, I think he tweaked his knee in the preseason already. So I think Dalton's going to take a step back this year. I mean, he did so well last year. I mean, he was a rookie. Nobody really expected him to start right off the bat, but he did, and he was very productive. So.
Yeah, he was productive. I'm not gonna say he was great. He was productive, and he was better than I think people expected him to be. But I think expectations are low, and they had kind of a soft schedule. So
that's true. They're definitely not going to creep up on anybody this year like they did last year. So I mean, Terrence Newman at corner. I mean,
suckers.
If you want to know how to get in the end zone, throw it that way. But yeah, I have them contending. I think they're going to be competitive. I think they have a team.
Oh yeah, they'll be in the mix.
Yeah, they're going to compete, with every team, but they may take a little step back this year.
Okay. And we talked briefly about the Browns. Let's wrap up the division with them. They got 2 very young. They got a lot of youth in this team. They got a stud running back.
Is he healthy though? And is he going to be a stud there? We'll see.
I think Trent Richardson's going to be the linchpin of the offense. Well, I'll talk more about Trent Richardson later, but I think he's going to be a great back. I know they have Colt McCoy. They have another. Who's the other quarterback?
Whedon's the starter.
Whedon, that's right.
It's not going to be McCoy.
And they're going to have Colt McCoy as the backup. I'm sure they're probably going to trade him at some point. They're going to struggle. Their defense is still a little shaky. They'll pick up the rear, but they'll give teams problems. But I think they're going to pick up the rear in the division.
Easily, yeah.
No, you know what? Cincy, they're making the playoffs. They are going to make the playoffs.
Cincy?
I'm calling it right now. Yeah.
All right, so you're putting Cincy and the Chiefs as your wild cards. Is that
the Bengals and the Chiefs are my AFC wild cards.
All right. Why in God's name do we let you on this show? Seriously, we could have had LaRue pick bad teams, for God's sakes. We had to put you on?
I think Cincy's going to be in the mix. I mean, Cleveland doesn't stand a chance. They might win 2 games. Their schedule's not as pretty. And, Greg Little's their leading receiver, so there you go.
Oh, God.
So, all right. Okay, so, JR, top to bottom, who do you like in the North?
I'm going Baltimore, Pitt, Cincy, Cleveland, and I think Baltimore and Pittsburgh both make the playoffs.
Okay. Kyle?
Baltimore, Cincy, Pittsburgh, and the Dog Pound.
Okay. All right, let me just keep my notes here. Okay, so in the North, we all like the Ravens. And, JR, you said you like the Steelers as a wild card?
Yes.
Okay, you like Steelers as a wild card, as do I, although barely. And Kyle likes Baltimore, and he likes Cincinnati as the wild card. All right, so your 2 wild card teams are filled. Okay. All right, let us go now to the AFC East, and we'll begin it now. Kyle, if you want to take a breather, get a drink.
Let's start backwards. Let's start with Miami.
You want to go backwards? All right, we'll go backwards. Let's start with the Miami Dolphins. Let's start with the Dolphins. Again, a lot of turnover, a really screwed up organization, I think. Definitely screwed up front office. I like Tannehill though. I think he's gonna put up some good numbers, but their defense has been okay at times, but their secondary's been a little soft.
Defense was good last year, but losing Vontae hurts.
Yeah.
Definitely.
they're gonna have some struggles. I think Tannehill's gonna just be able to be a gunslinger. I think he's gonna throw a lot of passes. He's gonna throw a lot of picks. They're gonna bring up the rear in the division. Kyle, what do you think?
Oh yeah, I mean, did you guys see the most recent episode of Hard Knocks that was just on?
I haven't. No.
I don't have HBO right now.
Yeah, I don't either.
I heard about this on the radio today. Basically, there was a clip where Matt Moore and Ryan Tannehill were in the meeting room, and they were talking about, the different teams and the different divisions and everything. And Ryan Tannehill didn't even know that the Chiefs were in the AFC. He thought the Chiefs were in the NFC East. He wasn't familiar with any of the divisions. And I'm not saying that's gonna make a difference, but he's not really a fan of football. He just plays to play. But I just thought it was really interesting to know that he doesn't know the different divisions. He didn't know that the Chiefs were in the AFC.
His wife makes up for it.
Yeah, so I mean, but I just thought I'd mention that. But as a whole, I mean, this organization, it's a lot of question marks and a lot of red flags. I don't know why you would trade away a cover corner. I mean, it's so difficult to find corners in the league. It's hard enough as it is, but I don't know why you trade it away for a second round pick. But it's not going to help you this year. But they're in full rebuilding mode, and I think the main reason why their defense played so well last year, I mean, that whole team just rallied around Tony Sperano last year. This is a brand new regime. It'll be interesting to see, how they progress. Maybe they do play hard for him, but a lot of question marks, and I can't see them making any noise this year.
What do you think, JR?
Uh-oh.
Time after time, I've done my sentence.
We're supposed to have a special guest. I don't know if he's with us. Are you there? Oh, the big moment ruined.
Oh my God. Oh boy.
All right, let's talk Miami. We'll come back.
All that for the Dolphins. Good God.
We'll come back.
All right, so what do you think of the Dolphins?
I don't like the Dolphins. I think that's obvious.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to the Buffalo Bills, a team that's.
Well, hey, hang on. I can talk a second about them, but I don't. I think they're, like you said, they're in full rebuild mode. I don't like. I don't see them hanging in that division at all. And I think Tannehill is going to be fine, but I honestly think they should go Matt Moore for a year before throwing Tannehill into the fire. I don't think they're ready to have him there just yet. So, I see them maybe winning 3 games, something like that, 3-4 games.
Okay. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Buffalo Bills, who have had a horrendous. I mean, again, preseason matters little, but they've gotten whacked in all 3 preseason games. Have not scored a boatload of points. They did sign Tavares Jackson, or got him in a trade after they cut Vince Young loose. But obviously this is Fitzpatrick's team. They got a lot of good skill guys. Fred Jackson is going to have a great year. They got Spiller on the bench as well. Another good, solid running back. This is my drunken weirdo pick to go along with Kyle's Chiefs pick. I think the Bills are going to make the playoffs.
That's not a drunken weirdo pick. Everyone said that.
Woohoo!
No, then I'm not the only one. All right, Kyle, what are your thoughts on the Bills?
On the Bills, I mean, I don't. I mean, it's the Bills, I mean, as a Cowboys fan, I love the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, they did so much for respect. I mean, I don't see them. I don't see them doing much. I mean, I do love the acquisition of Mario Williams. I actually do like their defensive line a lot. I think they have one of the best defensive lines in football. But a lot of question marks in the secondary. Stevie Johnson's a pretty good receiver, but other than that, not many weapons on the offensive side of the football. So I think they'll compete, but I don't see them making the playoffs.
A lot of people have them in the playoffs, or saying they've surpassed the Jets as a wild card. I think they're going to give a run. I mean, they were solid enough last year, and then they got racked with injuries. And Fred Jackson went down, Fitzpatrick went down. They shored up an already pretty solid defense. So, I mean, as a Jets fan, they definitely scare me a little bit. Like, I could see them, causing the Jets some trouble. And I know it's Week 1, but to me, that's a big fucking game. The Jets and Bills at New York, Week 1 right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And then
Buffalo always plays the Jets tough in New York.
Yep, they do, and then vice versa. And they play Week 1 and Week 17, so they don't see each other for a while. But Buffalo and the Jets both have a very similar schedule as you'd expect. Soft in the middle, hard around the edge a little bit. So, I think it's going to come down to the last week for them, Buffalo and New York. I can see them both finishing, between 8 and 10 wins. So I do like Buffalo. Stevie Johnson's going to get his head out of his ass. I know that much. So they need to really get their shit together. But I do think they're improved, and I do think it's going to be a dogfight. I think either them, and we'll get to the Jets in a minute, but I think either them or the Jets will be that second wild card for me.
Okay, let's talk about the team that won the division a year ago and went all the way to the Super Bowl and fell 4 points short. That is the New England Patriots. They're still the best team in the division. Tom Brady has changed his approach, or maybe the offense has changed his approach. He doesn't have one real deep threat. He's got tight ends and slot guys, so he's going to be throwing a lot of 10-yard hooks and 10-yard slants. So he's probably going to complete 300 passes and only throw for like 3,000 yards. But they're going to move the ball down the field. The defense, they had a lot of picks last year, but they gave up a lot of yards too. I don't know if that equation can work again, but I still think they're going to win the division. JR, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, they're the pick to win the division until you knock them off. Last year I think we jumped the gun. I got a little too excited about the Jets, and the Patriots are still the team. And yeah, their defense, was the worst pretty much in football history last year. But they still made the Super Bowl. Even with that, I think they got a lucky in their road. I think it was a pretty weak year overall. They have a couple tough games though. The schedule overall is pretty soft, and they're already talking around here. Can they go undefeated? All that bullshit. But, they have Houston and San Fran back-to-back in week 14 and 15. So we'll see. The Jets are going to have to play them tough if they want to have any chance. And I see New England. I don't think they win 16 games, but I think they probably win 13 or 14. So, and I think they end up either them or Houston as the number one seed.
Yeah, it seems like New England will take a player that sucked somewhere else and make him a Pro Bowler. The fact that they're starting Bobby Carpenter and he's actually playing well, it's unfathomable to me that he would ever become a player. And I when I think of New England, I think of when they lose a player, they have somebody ready to replace him. Like with Stevan Ridley, I think he's going to have a decent year. He's going to be the workhorse running back. Him and Shane Vereen, I think, are a pretty decent tandem. But you know what? As long as they have Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, they're always going to be one of the top teams in the NFL. I think that's the way it's always going to be. And I definitely have them win the division. But, like you said, I don't see them winning 16 games or anything like that. But I do like that they locked up both their tight ends, Hernandez and Gronkowski. That was a smart move by them. It seems like they're always transcending the NFL in some way, and I don't mean to kiss their ass in any way, but it seems like they're always doing something different, but it always works, so kudos to them.
All right, give this one last shot. Is our special guest with us now? Radio silence. Maybe later.
I feel like we're being monitored by the FBI.
Sounds like it. I agree, though. I think it was really smart for them to lock up Hernandez and Gronkowski. So
yeah.
Welker, I think, is done there. I think Welker's days are numbered, though.
Oh yeah.
He's not happy.
No, I don't blame him. I mean, I don't know what their problem is. I mean, the guy's an incredible receiver who catches anything everywhere it's thrown to him. Except for the one in the Super Bowl that was thrown like 3 feet in front of him, but he was supposed to catch it with his magic hands or something. I don't know. But in any event, again, I think the Patriots offense is going to adjust this year because you're going to have a lot of short passes and a lot of yards after catch. That's going to be the big stat for the Patriots this year. All right. Now, Kyle, you can sit back and relax and listen to the dulcet tones of my beloved PIC as we enter the world of gangrene.
I don't have anything crazy to say this year. I'm not going to go into any kind of Rex Ryan-esque rant. I just think that I think they can be a little bit better than people think. I think this whole not scoring touchdown thing in the preseason is a little bit overblown. They haven't had any of their receivers until last game, and this was the first game back with Sanchez. I mean with Stephen Hill and with Santonio Holmes, and they still even had Chaz Schillings in a game either yet. So I don't think their offense is fully gotten under grass. Don't forget they have a new offensive coordinator. They're going to learn a whole new system. So I think it's fine. They've come out. They sputtered. I think they actually looked pretty good in the Carolina game. They just couldn't punch it in. but they moved between the 20s pretty well. I think Dustin Keller, who also went down early in that game, don't forget, last weekend, but I think he's going to have a big year this year. He's in a walk year. Tight ends seem to thrive under Tony Sperano. Sperano's whole theory of offense is run, and they get huge chunks of offense on deep passes, and that's something they did not do last year. They didn't go deep as much, and that's why I think Stephen Hill's going to be key. And yes, losing Plaxico Burress in the red zone hurts them, but having that deep threat back will help a lot, I think, after losing Braylon Edwards from the year before. Now, everyone shits on Sanchez, but you know what? The guy's had different receivers every year. He's had an offensive coordinator that you would think is writing in hieroglyphics half the time with his 1,000-page playbook and all this confusing shit that he had throughout there. You have a guy, Sanchez, at a bum shoulder against the Giants last year in that Week 15 game, and you have him thrown 60 times. Like, what the hell kind of offensive plan is that? Control the game, run the ball. They were doing fine with it early, so I think Schottenheimer had to go. You heard me talk about it all year last year. I thought he was holding them back, and I think Sanchez is underrated at this point. Am I saying he's going to be a Hall of Famer? No. But I think he gets way too much crap. I think, this is a guy who's won a lot of playoff games, mainly on the road. This is a guy who's beaten Ben Roethlisberger. I'm sorry, he's beaten Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh. He's beaten Tom Brady in New England. He's beaten Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. So, he's won a lot of big games, and he's made some big plays. So, all this premature talk about Tebow coming in there and being the guy, I think is a little bit over the top. I don't think Tebow will be the starter at any point this year, unless it's due to injury. So, Sean Green better watch himself before he's out off the team. I think Bilal Powell, as Ashley Cruz and I were talking about, I think he takes a step forward and becomes the third down back this year. And I think he starts to steal some of Green's reps. Love the defense this year. I think Quentin Coples is going to have a great year. I know people were down on him, but he has looked great in the preseason so far. And I think any comparisons of Vernon Golston are bullshit. I think LaRon Landry has been a monster in the preseason. I think he's going to have a very good year. I like Jeremiah Bell as well. So I think they really shored up spots that were weak for them, safety, and rushing the passer. Mo Wilkinson has looked fantastic. The whole front four has looked great. So, I always trust the defense. Whenever anyone asks me about who they're drafting, the defensive play, I always say I trust Rex with the defense. It's the offense that they need to get going. So, I'm not saying they're going to win 13, 14 games, but I think, people assuming they're going to go 8-8 or worse, I think are hoping that more than knowing that. So, I say the Jets win 10 games, and I think either them or Buffalo sneaks in that second wild card.
Okay. Kyle, what do you think?
I think their defense is going to let them compete in every game. I think their defense gives them a chance. And I think that if the Jets can sustain that identity that they had a couple years ago of being a running football team, I feel like that they kind of have an identity crisis right now. They don't know if they want to be, they don't know if they want to put the ball in Sanchez's hands, or if they want to be a ground and pound team. I think they need to sustain an identity as a football team on offense. But I think their defense is going to give them a chance in every game. Some question marks at the receiver position. I think Santonio Holmes has to stay healthy, and we'll see what happens with Keller and his hamstring. But
they said he'll be back for week 1, but I know that can linger. So
yeah, but I think Keller's a good tight end, and I think if they don't let Sanchez do too much, I don't think if they don't put the entire game in his hands, if they play solid defense, if they could run the football, if they could, I think that the key is going to be, points allowed on the defensive side of the ball. If they give up less, if the defense allows less than, let's say, 17 points, if the Jets can get 21 points a game, average 21 points, which is middle of the pack for an offense in the NFL, I think that'll give them a chance to compete. I think they're going to be competing for a wild card spot at the end. I agree. I don't think they're going to be as bad as people are saying, because I do believe in the Rex Ryan scheme. I do like their defense. I think they do have a solid defensive line, and obviously Revis is Revis. So I think they're going to compete.
And they need to really control the ball more, because a lot of times last year they had too many quick possessions, and then the defense just wore down and ended up giving up a lot more points than they really probably should have. They were just on the field so much. So I think they'll run more with Sperano, and I think they'll have more of an identity. And I think you're going to see a lot of Tebow in that Wildcat, and I think you're going to see him and Sanchez on the field quite a lot together, honestly. So I think they're really excited to break Tebow out. And don't forget, they haven't used any of that stuff in the preseason either. So right. We'll see.
I don't put anything into the preseason. I think the year that the Lions went 0-16, they went undefeated in the preseason.
Right.
So I'm not even considering the preseason. You can't put too much into that. But Tony Sperano, that's a great underrated signing that people forget. He's a great offensive line coach, offensive coordinator, whatever you want to call him. But I think it's a very underrated signing.
As JR knows, and as those that have been listening to the Place to Be podcast for a long time.
We're trying this once more.
What are you calling Barnes & Noble?
That's what it sounds like when I call you.
I know, it's this weird thing in the background.
Good evening.
Here he is. Welcome.
Listen, I may be a 45-year-old virgin with no friends, a pathetic, lowly Mets fan, and an ignominious trivia loser of all time. But the one thing that I have going in my life is I am a fan of the world champion He-Man, the team that is undefeated in Jerry Jones Stadium. All right? As far as the Dallas Cowboys are concerned, your defensive coordinator, Rob Ryan, is a big, fat, floppy pig. And Dez Bryant hit his mom harder than your defense ever hit anybody last year. Thank you. Have a good night.
I think it was worth all the technical glitches.
I hate you.
Oh, please. You got Kyle in your corner. We're going to have to hear about all your Cowboys bullshit later.
Please, don't give me that
really
crap.
necessary?
I thought it was gonna be Josh Richard telling me that that he only gets Piper questions right. I mean, you do this all the
And
time.
that reminds me, and I have 6 more words for you, Cowboy fans. To do worse than the Cowgirls.
Yeah.
Hang up. Go away. No one's talking to you. Beat it.
Get
God. Get 2 questions right next time. All right, beat it.
I love you, Scotty.
I love you too, JAD. You're the best.
All right, Jay.
The technical difficulties, and Kyle's there. That's another thing that bothers me. There's more Cowboy fans in my own home state than there are freaking Giants fans.
Hey,
That's okay. We're loyal. That's okay.
That's the beauty of sports. That's the beauty of sports.
Yeah, especially New York, man. Yeah.
Oh man, are they beating the Phillies tonight? What's the score? Are they beating the Phillies or what?
They're up 3-2 last I checked.
Here we go. All right, see, time to start wrecking people's seasons. There we go.
Third place, yeah, third place. Like the Cowboys will finish this year. Third place.
All right, go away.
Boom, roasted.
Go read the WWF Encyclopedia. Maybe you can get to the second round next year. Okay, move on.
And when you guys go to WrestleMania next year, you can take a good look at the Lombardi trophies in Giant Stadium. All right, Giant Life Stadium, Super Bowl champion stadium.
MetLife
Haven't you
Stadium.
hung him up yet? God.
Yeah, I know. It took him this long to get him on. I got to let him at least rant a little bit.
And that's another thing. Our stadium is so great that when we're on the road, we rent it out to our little brother Jets.
All right, Mr. D'Amato. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy Louis C.K. Have a good night.
Thank you, JD. You're the best.
He's gone. He's gone.
You knew that was coming. Told you to let him on. See? Leaving him on too long, came back and bit you in the ass. All right.
JD.
Anyway, we're talking about the Jets. I've been as people.
By the way, was it worth the technical difficulties to have the great Mr. D'Amato? What? It's D'Amato.
As a Cowboys fan?
That's all right. D'Amato needed to redeem himself for his hideously piss poor performance in the trivia tournament. So, all right. As everyone knows, I'm a very big Tony Sperano fan. I know him. I don't say know him personally, but if he saw me, he'd recognize me. I mean, he was head coach of my beloved University of New Haven Chargers. Got him to national prominence. I know his wife. I know his kids. Or I knew them. But he's a good guy, and he got hosed in Miami. I really like him in this role with the Jets, and I know a lot of Jet haters are gonna be like, well, see, if the offense stinks, then they pissed and moaned at Schottenheimer for nothing. That's not gonna happen this year. The guy that I have the guy that I'm going to look the most forward to watching is Tim Tebow. Now, the reason is the guy just wants to play football. Now, did I give him a lot of grief when he was at Florida because I thought he had a bromance with him and Urban Meyer, and then, of course, Tebow retires and Urban Meyer quits. But Tim Tebow just wants to play ball, and he's gotten crapped on the whole time he's been in the NFL.
See, this is why I didn't like the backlash he got for that trade either, because everyone's like, oh, this is going to make more of a circus, and it has brought more attention. But I'm like, he doesn't do anything wrong. It's like they made it like he was going to be bad for that clubhouse, for that locker room, for that chemistry. But I'm like, if anything, he's going to help it because everyone likes the guy, everyone loves the guy. He doesn't cause any issues. He just goes out and plays. It doesn't say a word. So I didn't get a lot of that. Is it going to bring more media? Yes, but I mean, there's a lot of anywhere there.
Now, does he have the perfect tools for an NFL quarterback? No, but who does? I mean, everybody's got some type of.
I don't think that's the best argument, but I'm going to say this. If he was coming in to be a starting quarterback, I probably would have been pretty upset. But if he's coming in to play this hybrid role, backup quarterback, running back, tight end, punt blocker, punt returner, this guy that's just going to do everything, I think it's a smart move. So.
Yeah, he's the most polarizing sports figure I think in the history of sports. It's unbelievable, and I think that if they could find a role for him, find a role, because he's not going to be the starting quarterback, and he shouldn't be. I don't think he has the tools athletically to play quarterback in the NFL. I think mentally he's all there. I think he could do it mentally, but I don't think he has the physical traits. But I think if they find a role from him in the Wildcat, in special goal line packages, have him play on special teams.
Run the option.
Yeah, exactly. If anybody's going to find a place for him, it's going to be Tony Sperano. I loved him when he was in Dallas. We had a couple of our best offensive years when he was our offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. So I think if anybody could find a role for Tebow and help Sanchez progress even more, I think it's going to be Tony Sperano. I absolutely love him as a coach.
Like I said, too, I think we're going to see Sanchez and Tebow in the same backfield quite a bit. I think they're going to be split out together, and you're not going to know who's going to get the snap. So I think that I think is going to be where they, what a lot of their game plan is going to be.
How has Stephen Hill looked in the preseason? Has he looked?
He has looked good as far as running and when he makes the play, been good, but he's had some bad drops. So route running and being a specimen, he's looked very good. But he's a little bit of a project. I think they knew that. So I think they were hoping Chaz Schillens could step in and kind of be the second guy early on. But I kind of wish maybe they'd look at bringing a veteran in, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to roll. Jeremy Curley, I think, is very good. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be very good in the slot. So, and I think Holmes will be better than last year. So, they just need Hill. They need Hill to be what Torrey Smith was last year for Baltimore. Run towards the end zone and just at least take some deep guys with you. At least be a threat. Last year the Jets had no deep threat, and that really fucked them up. So I think if they can at least have Hill burning down the sidelines, they at least have to respect that other team. So.
Seems like the transition in general for wide receivers to the NFL is difficult. So.
Right, and I think speed guys can contribute quicker because they can at least be decoys running down the field and maybe catch a few. So I know Smith, that was one of his issues last year. He had a lot of drops deep or missed or Flacco underthrew him. But we saw when Sanchez had Braylon Edwards there, that was his most successful year when he had Edwards for the full year. Edwards could stretch the field and Sanchez could hit him. So I think that's what they missed big time last year. I think they had one play over 40 yards last year.
Oh.
So. Yeah, I think the offense is going to struggle a little bit. I think in the beginning, I think the Jet offense will. Well,
they can't afford to struggle. They can't afford.
I know that. No, they can't. That's why I have a feeling they may just miss the playoffs. I think they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose some early games, catch up later. But I think they may fall too far behind in the standings to catch up. But I think they will by week 5 or 6. Maybe finally find a groove, but we'll see. Buffalo's not a team that's going to run away with the wild card. I just think they may.
No.
They may.
But early on they got Buffalo, they have Pittsburgh, right out of the gate. So, and then they got like Houston and San Fran, not long after that. So, they do have some tough games early. So, all right, let's move over to the NFC. So,
let me just clarify.
Oh, right, yeah.
In writing, JR top to bottom, AFC East.
Patriots, Jets, Bills, Dolphins. And, I think Jets-Bills is going to be tough, if not tied, but I'm going to let my fanboy slip through and put the Jets in as the second wild card.
Okay. Kyle?
Yes, I have the Pats, the Jets, the Bills, and the Dolphins also.
Okay. All right, just write it down. And, all right, on my other page here, let's see. JR's got New England winning, and he has the Jets as the wild card. And you have New England winning flat out. All right, so just to quickly go over the AFC again. My division winners, Oakland, Houston, Baltimore, New England. My wild cards are the Steelers and Bills. JR has the Broncos, Texans, Ravens, and Patriots winning the divisions with the Steelers and Jets as the wild card. Kyle has the Broncos.
Original, right? I think it was pretty much the same as last year almost.
Yeah, I know. Broncos, Texans, Ravens, and Patriots. And his wild card teams are the Chiefs and Bengals.
Oh!
Actually, who was the second wild card last year? Was it the Bengals?
It was Cincinnati. Yep.
Okay, they lost to Houston. That's right.
They lost to Houston. Yep. All right. Okay, let's go now to the other side of the coin. Let's start with the NFC West. And obviously, the team that made the most advancements has to be the 49ers. Adding Kaepernick is backing up Alex Smith. You've got Randy Moss there now. You've got Brandon Jacobs there now.
Yeah, I don't.
They've added a lot. I mean, they're not world beaters, but they've added a lot of kind of interesting pieces to their offense. The defense, obviously, one of the best in the league. Patrick Willis might be the best linebacker in the NFL. I think easily. I don't say easily. This division will be a lot tougher than people.
Yeah, they're not walking away with it this year.
No, they're not going to walk away with it, but I think they win the division. JR, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they win the division. I think it's going to be tight, and I think anyone looking for them to be as good or dominant as they were last year is going to be buying into fool's gold, no pun intended. Yep. But I really think they're going to struggle a little bit more this year. I think teams are going to be a little more onto them. Do we really expect Alex Smith to throw for 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, and barely any picks again? I don't know. Randy Moss, does he have anything left? Probably. I think they definitely made a good move bringing in some receivers to shore that up. Frank Gore, can he stay healthy for a whole year? The defense, they got a lot of lucky bounces on turnovers last year. They're very, very good defense, probably the best in the league still. I like Harbaugh. Teams like this that have a big jump like that usually regress to the pack just a little bit. And, they don't have the easiest start to their schedule either. At Green Bay, home for Detroit right off the bat. And then they got a few, Minnesota, Jets, Buffalo. But then they got the Giants, and then you got some division games. And the one team I think that's going to surprise some teams, we'll get to in a minute. But then they got New Orleans, Chicago in there as well. So and the Patriots, so in New England. So not a cakewalk schedule. I think we're looking at 10-6 for this team.
Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, they have best defense in the NFL, in my opinion. Best linebacking core in the NFL. I mean, they have Willis, Alden Smith, who's the inside guy from Penn State, Navarro Bowman. They just have so much talent on the defensive side of the ball, and their offensive line is solid. Gore's got to stay healthy. It seems like he has some nicks and bruises every year, and I'm not big on Brandon Jacobs. He had the knee injury in the preseason, so I don't know if
he's done. I think he's cooked.
Yeah, I don't think he has anything left. It seems like they brought in all these retreads. I know Manningham had a couple big catches, but he's very inconsistent, and Crabtree is very inconsistent in my mind also. And I don't think Randy Moss is making the team. I don't think he's even going to make the team.
I think he'll make the team. I think he's worth the flyer to make the team. I don't think he's that bad, but.
Well, I don't. Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting, but yeah, like you said, they overachieved like crazy last year, and while they're talented, most likely they're going to take a step back. Alex Smith, he's good, but is he a Pro Bowler? No. Is he going to take over a game and just win it for you? Probably not, but I think he's good enough, for what they have on the defensive side of the ball. I think their defense gives them the chance to win every ball game. So he's playing not to lose, so he doesn't have to do as much. So I have him taking a little step back, but still going to win the division, still going to be one of the more consistent teams in the NFC. So, and they have a chip on their shoulder from last year's NFC Championship game. They had so many opportunities in that ball game to just take over the game and win. So
that's the story of the Giants' year. I mean, that team was so close to elimination on so many occasions. It's crazy.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah. Next up, let's talk about the St. Louis Rams. A lot of changes with that team. I love the draft pick. I love Brockers adding to the defense. Sam Bradford coming back from injury. Steven Jackson seems to always be there. But this team probably once again is gonna pick up the rear in this division. I don't think they're gonna be horrendous, but they're not gonna. I think the teams above them are still more talented, and I think they're gonna once again finish in last in the division. JR, what do you think?
Yeah, I jumped the gun a little bit last year on them. I thought they were going to be. I honestly thought they were going to win the division last year, but injuries just destroyed them. I think Bradford is good. I think people are kind of souring on him, but he got derailed by injuries and he had no one to throw to. So I still like Bradford a lot. I think their defense is going to be improved. I don't like that they're bringing in all the Jet retreads. They just traded for the Scourge of New York, Wayne Hunter. They also brought in obviously Schottenheimer, and they got a couple other players that were formerly Jets there as well. So me with Schottenheimer, not a big fan, but maybe that offense fits him better. I don't know, but I like Steven Jackson. I do like Sam Bradford. I like Isaiah Peed, the running back from Cincinnati they drafted in the second round. I think he'll be a good change of pace from Steven Jackson. They lost Brandon Lloyd, and now they're going to be relying on Gibson and Danny Amendola. So, yeah, they got kind of a tough schedule. So I think they improve on their 2 wins from last year. I think they get up to 4, and I think that's a pretty big jump for them.
Yeah,
Kyle, what do you think?
I love a couple of their first early round picks. I love the Brockers pick, like you said. I also love the Janoris Jenkins pick. I think he had a solid camp. He's had some struggles in the preseason, but I think he's going to develop into a solid corner if he could stay away from his troubles off the field. But I think that they're going to be better. I mean, how can they really be worse, But it baffles me. I mean, they have a franchise quarterback in Sam Bradford, and it doesn't seem like they're trying to surround him with the weapons necessary to compete. What? I don't think Danny Amendola is a number one receiver. I don't think Brian Quick is ready to handle that load either. He's a rookie, and then you have Steve Smith from the Giants and the Eagles who he had that degenerative knee condition. So I don't know what he's going to be either. So a lot of question marks on offense. I think that they're going to just pound the rock with Steven Jackson all year long, and I think he's going to have a pretty good year. Mm-hmm. But they definitely need some help at receiver still. I thought they were going to go out and maybe get a more solidified veteran receiver, more that's been proven. I think Brandon Lloyd was a pretty good pickup for them last year, considering they picked him up in midseason trade, I believe. So, I think that they're in rebuilding mode, but I think if they pick up some more offensive weapons in the next year or two, and they continue to improve on defense, I think they'll be okay. But right now, I mean, they're not going to make that much noise, in my opinion.
Okay, and next up, we'll talk about another team that you never really know from year to year what they're going to do, particularly in this division, and that's the Arizona Cardinals. Love the draft. Michael Floyd and 3 great offensive linemen, Massey from Mississippi, I think it's Kelamite, I think it's pronounced, from Washington, and then Potter from Boise State. So they loaded up on the offensive line, try to protect Skelton or Cobb, whoever's the quarterback. Looks like Skelton's going to get the lead. Red Skelton. He's going to tell jokes in quarterback. I'm
sure they'll be as funny as yours.
Yeah. I had a comedian from like 50 years ago. But anyway, they got a lot of, obviously Larry Fitzgerald, but the defense seems to always find a way to let something get away. And they may try to outscore teams this year, but I don't see them staying in too many games. They got a tough, they open with Seattle, but then they got back-to-back Patriots, Eagles. They have a stretch later on where they play middle of the year. They got the Niners, Packers, and then a bye, but then the Falcons 3 in a row. That's not going to be easy either. Kyle,
and then at New York, at Seattle is not easy either.
Oh. No, and then they end at San Francisco.
And in between that is Detroit and Chicago. So, I mean, yeah, they got a tough schedule.
It's going to be rough. Kyle, what do you think?
Top 5 pick.
Yeah.
I think there will be a couple bright spots for them. I do like Ryan Williams, the running back, coming back from the knee injury. I think he could be a bright spot for them. I think Michael Floyd is a little behind. Just receivers in general have that tough transition.
Has to do with the alcohol, probably.
Oh yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
But they have some key pieces on defense. Calais Campbell's a really good player. I like Adrian Wilson, but yeah, I mean, come on, quarterback position. You got to have a quarterback to compete, and they just don't have it.
I mean, they won 8 games last year, but they were outscored overall in the season. Don't forget, they won a lot of games thanks to Patrick Peterson returning punts, and that's not something you can count on every year. I think they won 2 alone with him, right? So
yeah, it's the Rams. Yeah.
I mean, I can't see them winning more than 5 games. I really don't. And they spent all that money on Cobb, and now they're going to go Skelton, and now they may alternate. They said I think they're just a mess down there, and I don't see them. I think it's going to be a dogfight between them and St. Louis for third. Honestly, I think they probably edge them out at the end, but I don't see much there.
Yeah, this may cost Ken Wisenhunt his job if he doesn't step up this year.
No, it's not his fault. They're not giving. No, I don't. No, Williams is going to be the main running back there.
Yeah.
But who knows? We'll see. We'll see if Wisenhunt, even if they struggle, whether or not they. This would have been his 4th year, I think, now with the Cardinals. So we'll see. Finally, a team that a lot of people like. They had a good draft, and they got a lot of hidden talent up there, and that's the Seattle Seahawks, who everyone thought was nothing more than a kind of like a safe haven for Pete Carroll, so the NCAA dogs didn't rip him to shreds when USC became a mess. Oh, I'm going to go coach the Seahawks. See you later. And meanwhile, he made them somewhat competitive last year. And I think next to Trent Richardson, for me, a huge rookie impact this year could be Russell Wilson. To swipe the starting job out of nowhere is a big deal. And I think they're gonna compete. I think they're gonna compete. Their defense was very good. They have the Niners on the road middle of the year. So if they're in the hunt at the end of the year, Week 16, they're home. They host the Niners. And Quest Field is not an easy place to play.
No, it's not.
It's is not an easy place to play in.
No way.
You, as a Jet fan, know that firsthand. The Cowboys had to play a tough game there, too. So, JR, what do you think of the Seahawks?
I love the Seahawks. They are my surprise team this year. I think they're going to give the Niners a run. I think they're going to come up just short of the playoffs, but it's only going to be by a game. I think they win 9. I like Russell Wilson. I like that they added Braylon Edwards. I think he's going to have a very good year there. I always liked Sidney Rice. Marshawn Lynch was a beast last year. Their defense was very, very good, very underrated by many last year. They played their hearts out, and Pete Carroll gets that team fired up. He gets those fans fired up. He's the perfect guy for that, kind of laid back, yet fiery when they need it, kind of friends with the players, friends with the fan. He almost treats it like a college gig. And that's really what that city is like. It's like a college town. It's tight-knit. The fans are very into the team. That stadium's like a college stadium. It's very rah-rah up there, and he fits in perfectly with that group. And I think they're smart going with Russell Wilson. If he's better than Flynn, fuck the money. Play the better guy. I think that's a smart way to go. And they got a guy named Sweezy. How can you go wrong with that? But they, the schedule's a little tough, but I'll tell you, those last 2 games, they got at San Fran, at St. Louis. The division could be on the line in that game against San Fran at home. So I really think Seattle, don't forget, this is a team we're only a couple years away removed from them having gone 2 rounds in the playoffs, remember? So they shocked New Orleans and then, went to Chicago and lost a tough game. And they've improved greatly since then. So, this team is a team that gets slept on a lot. But I think they, if it wasn't for some of the teams in the North we're going to get to in a minute that I like a lot, I think this team could maybe sneak as a wild card. I don't think they will, but they're going to be better than a lot of people think.
Yeah, it seems like they're rebuilding, but they're really not. I mean, they're going to be starting a rookie quarterback, but it seems like he's made so much strides in just one off season. And I'll never forget at the NFL draft this past year when Mel Kiper was arguing with John Gruden about Russell Wilson, about how he felt in the 3rd round, and how Kiper was saying how he was under 6 feet. So, how many starting quarterbacks in the NFL under 6 feet? And I'll remember John Gruden, he took his 2 fingers and he said, "You're saying there's this much difference between Drew Brees and Russell Wilson." And you got to give it to Gruden. I mean, I'm not, pouring the anointing oil on Russell Wilson or anything. He hasn't proven anything in the NFL yet, but it seems like he has all the makings of a solid quarterback in the NFL. And it says a lot that, they just handed Matt Flynn this pretty hefty contract in the offseason. So that says a lot about what they think of Flynn and what they think about Russell Wilson also. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Marshawn Lynch and his possible suspension, maybe a game or 2. But I like how they picked up Robert Turbin. I think he's had a pretty solid offseason also. So I love their secondary. I love Earl Thomas. I really wanted the Cowboys to draft him. I love Cam Chancellor. There are a couple other pieces that they have, but man, that's such a tough place to play in also. I mean,
and they got lucky because they got the 2 tough AFC East games at home, New England and the Jets. So they got New England in the mix there in the middle of 4 road games. They're at St. Louis, at Carolina, home for the Pats, at San Fran, at Detroit. So tough little stretch there, 4 out of 5 on the road. So that might make or break their season, that stretch right there.
Yeah, it's never a cakewalk to go up there. But on the other hand, wide receiver position, a lot of question marks in my opinion. I mean, I know that didn't they pick up Kellen Winslow also? I think they picked up Winslow. So they have some players at the tight end position, but receivers, we'll see. I mean, if they cut T.O., I mean, that says that they may have something there. But...
Yeah, I mean, Baldwin, was pretty good last year, and I like Rice. He missed a lot of the year, but he still came back and finished pretty well. And like I said, I'm just a big Braylon Edwards fan. I think he matured on the field, not off the field, but on the field in New York. I think he stepped up and became a leader of that team in a big time. He made a lot of clutch plays for them, and I think he has something to prove. He had to sign cheap with Seattle, so he had a down year last year with the injuries, but I think he's got a little chip on his shoulder. I think he plays well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they end the year with you talk about that tough stretch, JR.
Yeah.
If they can hang around, and then they end the year back-to-back Niners, Rams, both at home.
That's it.
So,
I mean, they really just got to be, if they can be sitting, 8-6 in that going into that game, then they got a definite chance. If they're 8-6 going into that San Fran game, they got a legit shot at that division.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, 3 of their last 4 games are against the other 3 teams in the division, and they're all at home.
Yeah, so that's big.
The schedule
I'll tell you,
gods,
the middle, the middle's going to be tough. And that's a big game week, too, for your boys. Cowboys going into Seattle.
Week 2.
Seattle could be looking at 2-0 going with Green Bay coming in on a Monday night. So.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you something. They sneaked that. I hate to say this, but, they beat Arizona. They could be the Cowboys, obviously. And then Green Bay, we'll see. But
that's not an easy game for Green Bay though. Going into Seattle on a Monday night, that crowd, if they're 2-0, that crowd's gonna be fired up.
Yeah, fired up. Then they win that game, and then at St. Louis win, at Carolina maybe win. So then that home game against the Patriots, they could be 5-0.
Right.
I mean, really,
4-1 at least. So
yeah. I mean, that could be. But
crazy. They could turn and they could be 4-4 very quickly with the with the games coming after that. But
killer stretch. Yeah, exactly. All right, JR, top to bottom, what do you like in the division?
I don't have the balls to pick Seattle. I want to, but I'm going to say San Fran, Seattle. I'm going to switch things at the bottom though. Say St. Louis, Arizona.
Okay, Kyle.
I'm with him. I'm same way. San Fran, Seattle, Rams, and Arizona.
Okay, and I'm actually going to go with the same as I'm going to go except the reverse. I think Arizona is good enough to finish third. I think the Rams will finish last, and I like the Seahawks to take one of those 2 wild card spots in the NFC. I think they are going to snag it at the end of the year.
I want to, but they're I don't know. I think this is a few other teams.
I think they'll weather that 4 road games.
It has nothing to do with that. I think they can have the record to get there. I just think that the other teams in the mix are going to be too strong. Like I think Seattle, the most they can win, looking at the schedule, is 10 probably. I think there's other teams that probably get in with 11 wins into the wild card. So.
All right. Well, we'll see. We're going to continue on. We'll go down to a division. A lot of people think we'll have 3 playoff teams. I don't think so.
I think
and I think that's the NFC North. We'll begin, of course, with the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay, just an amazing season last year statistically. Rodgers, I think he won the MVP.
Oh, I'm sorry, North. I thought we were doing the South. Yeah, 3 teams.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll do the North. I meant to do the South, but since we started the North, we'll go to the North. The Packers, they had Aaron Rodgers won the MVP last year. Great regular season, and then
wore down. That is wore down.
They just played 4 bad quarters at the wrong time and lost to the Giants in the NFC divisional playoff. Clearly, they were the better team. And you can ask anybody. You can ask J.R. Tomato. You can ask Dr. G, Andy Flanagan, any Giant fan, and they'll tell you that they knew that Green Bay was the better team in that game, and they just played 4 crappy quarters. They're going to win this division again. They're just too good. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. They got a lot of talent on the wide receivers. Their secondary's good. Front line, everything about the team is still good. I love their head coach. And next to Quest Field, they may have one of the best home field advantages in the league in Lambeau Field. So this team will again probably win 13 games and win the North. Kyle, what do you think?
They're stacked. I mean, Aaron Rodgers. You could argue he's the best player in the NFL right now. Definite MVP candidate. I just get the feeling that they're pissed off. They just let one get away last year. And they gave that game away to the Giants last year. They just gave it to them. So I think if Greg Jennings needs to stay healthy, he's had some concussion issues, but I think he should be okay. But man, they're talking about Randall Cobb being a breakout guy. They brought back Donald Driver. I think he's a great mentor at the wide receiver position for those younger guys. So I love their wide receiving core. I know the Cowboys will be watching that waiver wire very closely when they make their cuts. But I think Jarmichael Finley, he's had some injury concerns. So I think he needs to stay on the field. He's a huge weapon for them, huge matchup nightmare for other teams. So their defense, took a pretty steep step back last year. So I think they need to have a rebound year. Make it easier for Aaron Rodgers. He did so much last year. He carried that team, and unbelievable player. But I think probably be the 1 seed again, maybe 2 seed. But I can't see anybody really being better than them in the NFC.
Couple things on the Packers. I love them. I've been a big Packer, backer the last couple of years. Love Aaron Rodgers. Love Jordy Nelson. Looking at that schedule, Scott, there's a chance, and Kyle, there's a chance they could be 2-4 early, and there's a chance they could be 6-0. You never know with this team, but home for San Fran and home for Chicago, those are 2 big games, especially Chicago coming in on a Sunday night. On a Thursday night, week 2. That is a huge game. Then they go out to Seattle, and then they got New Orleans at home. So, and then at Houston a couple weeks later. So, they are not an easy stretch there, but then things soften a little bit. I like them to still finish first, but I think they take a step back. They were 15-1 last year. I think we see 13-3, maybe 12-4 this year.
Yeah, I don't think they're good enough. I don't think they're going to win 15. I don't think you're going to see any 15-game winners this year. No one's going to have that dominant a season, I don't think, this year. I think you'll see a lot of parity even at the top of the divisions. No one's going to lose less than 3 games this year. I'm telling you, JR, I'm digging that Week 6 game in Houston. That's going to be that's a
Sunday night game.
Yeah, that's a gut check game for both teams. I am so digging that game. And and then you look down. They got some cupcakes in the middle. They get a rematch with the Giants this time at the Meadowlands, and then they end the year home to Tennessee and at Minnesota. So we'll see. I still think they're going to score a lot of points, but I agree with you, Kyle, that I think the defense, there might be some issues there. So let's talk about the Chicago Bears.
Yes.
I am as much as I love Aaron Rodgers is as much as I do not love Jay Cutler. I'm not a big fan of his. I don't like the way he throws the football. I hate his mannerisms. I don't like just his whole attitude on the bench. I'm not a big fan of his.
You're a crack.
I think this team is good, but I don't think they're great.
What?
I think the defense
team
is solid.
Loaded.
But
loaded.
I think they're gonna just miss the playoffs.
No way. This team is going to contend with Green Bay for the top spot in the North. I think they're going to win 12 games. Listen to the schedule. Kyle, ready? Give me win or loss. Scott, you count. Ready? Making the Mad Dog style.
Yeah.
Home for Indy.
Win.
At Green Bay.
Loss.
Home for St. Louis.
Win.
At your boys.
Loss.
At your boys.
No. He gave you the answer. Move on.
All right, whatever. At Jacksonville.
Win.
Home for Detroit.
I'll give him a win.
Okay. Home for Carolina.
Win.
At Tennessee.
Win.
Home for Houston.
Loss.
At San Francisco.
Loss.
Home for Minnesota.
Win.
Home for Seattle.
Win.
At Minnesota.
Say that again.
At Minnesota.
Win.
Home for Green Bay.
Loss.
So you don't think they can split Green Bay?
It can go either. It could go either way. I mean,
I don't
they
think
could
so.
definitely win at home, but I don't know.
All right. At Arizona.
Win.
At Detroit.
Loss.
So you're saying they get swept by Detroit?
No, I had Detroit winning.
Okay.
Losing the first game.
Okay, you're right. All right. What's that, Scott?
10-6.
Okay, and I disagree with the Dallas game. I think they could beat Dallas, so I'm going to put them 11-5. And I think they can. I think the Green Bay game is going to be the game, so I think they can easily go 12-4. I think their schedule permits it. Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall have tremendous chemistry. I think they work very well together. They're reunited with them and the offensive coordinator. Mike Martz is gone. I think Matt Forte got paid. I think he's going to have a good year. Now they brought in Michael Bush to back him up as well. So this is a team that they're really restocked, really reloaded. They brought in Jeffrey from South Carolina, as a third or fourth receiver. So their defense, as we know, of course, is always very, very good. And this is just a team I think that was 8-8 last year, and they had not nearly the weapons they have this year. And Cutler for a full year if he stays healthy. This is my team, This is my team. So this is the team that I think is going to surprise some people, or I've seen actually people, maybe won't be surprised, as I think a lot of people do like them. So I think they give Green Bay a run for their money in the division, and I don't think they win it, but I think they fall just a game short. So
Okay, let's go on now to the. Actually, Kyle, did you make your Bears comments? If you didn't, go right ahead.
No. Just something quick. I do think they have talent at the skill positions, but the one question mark that I have is their offensive line. I think if they can't protect Cutler, and he's been known to hold on the ball a little bit longer than he should, I think that could be a problem for him. But Urlacher needs to stay healthy. He's had some injury concerns this offseason. They say he's going to be ready for week 1, which is good for them. Their defense.
I'd hold them out to week 2. Home for Indy. They should win that without him.
Yeah, I would hold them out till after week 2, so the Cowboys don't have to play. And that
Cowboys are week 4, so I think they'll play him for Green Bay. But I think week 1 they could sit him against Indy.
Yeah. So, Forte got his contract, well deserved. That connection, Cutler to Marshall, is gonna be solid. But that offensive line, not completely sold on it. So that could be their Achilles heel, but they're definitely going to be improved from last year. So.
Okay, let's move on to the Detroit Lions, who I have very high hopes for this season. They scored a lot of points last year. Matthew Stafford grew up as a quarterback. They just got outscored by the Saints. I felt like I was watching JR and Andy play Madden when I was watching that playoff game, just constant scoring up and down the field. I like this team. I think this team could easily win 12 games if they play their cards right. I like them to snag second place. I think they're going to finish a game behind the Packers. But they will take the other wild card, in my opinion, in the NFC. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, Detroit, they're my sleeper team. They're my big sleeper team. They're definitely making the playoffs. They're going to finish behind Green Bay. I love Matthew Stafford. Definite top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Is the best receiver in the NFL. Their defensive line getting better every year. You know, Cliff Averill got he get it. He got his contract. No, I don't think he got his contract extension, but he's in camp and he's going to be ready for the season. They got Sue. They got Vanden Bosch. They drafted Fairley last year, so I love their defensive line. And man, they're just going to outscore people. That's what the Lions do, you know. And I love the mentality of that football team. So they're definitely one of my wild card spots for the NFC. And I think they're going to go on a run. I'll get to that a little bit later, but they're going to make a little run at the end. Like, I know how they got really cold last year. I think the opposite is going to happen this year. They're going to start off slow, and they're going to go on a little bit of a run this year.
Okay, but JR, before you give your picks, I'm gonna put you on the Mike and the Mad Dog spot. I'm gonna give you the Lions schedule, and I want you to tell me what you think. So you have the Bears going 11-5.
Yep.
Okay.
I already did it in my head, so I can tell exactly what they're gonna make. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Home to St. Louis.
Win.
Okay. At San Francisco.
Loss.
At Tennessee.
Toss up, but I'll give them the win.
Okay. Home to Minnesota.
Win.
At Philadelphia.
Loss.
At Chicago.
Loss.
Home to Seattle.
Win.
At Jacksonville.
W.
At Minnesota.
W.
Home to Green Bay.
Loss.
Home to Houston.
Loss.
That's a toss-up. Home to the Colts.
Thanksgiving Day, that game.
Yes.
Win.
Okay. At Green Bay.
That is a loss, sir.
Okay. At Arizona.
Win.
Home to Atlanta.
L.
Home to Chicago.
That will be a win since we considered it a win last time.
Okay, so you've got them 3,
10-6,
5,
right?
6, 3, 6,
9-7.
9 and 7.
All right, well, there's a couple swing games, and the Houston game's a swing. I see them winning 10, so give them one of the games I said. Maybe they split with Green Bay or they beat Houston or something. So, but I think Chicago wins 11. I think Green Bay wins 12-13. So, like I said, I think there's going to be 3 teams in the playoffs. I think Detroit does get in, but I see them being about the same as last year, 10 wins, I'd say.
Okay.
I like them. I just, everyone talks about the Jets being undisciplined and everything else. The Lions are right up there with them. Not a lot of discipline to that team, and they're a little feisty, a little wild. That game at San Fran on a Sunday night, week 2, is going to be pretty big. So we'll see what they got, what they're made of. So Scott, we talked about this last year with Tampa Bay. They came off that playoff run or that really good year, and you were all on them. You were all in their jock, and I picked Detroit to be that team. And I see Detroit maybe in a similar position to where Tampa was a little bit that year. Maybe they were just a year ahead of schedule just a little bit, and everyone get all amped for them, and then they have a couple rocky spots, and they lose some games maybe they shouldn't. So I think they're going to be better than Tampa was last year, obviously. But I just maybe seeing things going that direction where that team that everyone thinks is going to blow up because it makes sense to make that next step, but maybe they're not quite there. Maybe their leap last year was too big. Can they really build on that again? Can they go from what they were 2 years ago to 10-6? Can they really go 12 wins? I mean, that's a big jump for them. So I see them where they are, maybe taking a slight step back. I still think they make the playoffs, but I don't think it's a gimme that they're going to be dominant by any means.
Yep. All right, let's wrap up the North with the Minnesota Vikings.
I think we can just breeze through them.
Yeah, they're going to bring up the rear. I like Christian Ponder. I love Khalil as in the draft pick. And I don't bloviate vainly about USC guys, but I think that's a good pick for them. Quickly, Kyle, what do you think of the Vikings?
Yeah, they're a team on the decline in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Adrian Peterson, they say he's ready for contact. He's allowed to get hit in practice now, but is he ready for full speed NFL football? I don't know. I mean, I know he's a beast. He's not a human being, but at the same time, I don't think he's going to be his normal self in the beginning. So Ponder, lots of questions there. Like Percy Harvin, but
yes, love Percy Harvin.
Love him. I mean, he's basically their offense right now. With AD.
I was dying for the Jets to try and trade for him. There were slight rumors out there, but I don't think it's going to happen.
He would have been perfect for your offense.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great special teams player as well. So, I mean, their defense, other than Jared Allen, can a normal football fan name anybody on their defense? I mean, they're a team on the decline. Not even close.
Yeah, they got a lot of rebuilding to do. I do like Ponder. I love Percy Harvin. I think Toby Gerhardt's in for a pretty good year with Peterson maybe struggling early. So I think he'll turn some heads. But yeah, I think they mainly win 3 games.
Yeah.
They're just in a
All right.
really, really hard division.
It is a hard division. I mean, those 3 teams above them are all going to be very, very good. So they could easily go 0-6 in the division. All right, JR, top to bottom, the North.
Packers, Bears, Lions, Vikings.
Okay. And you have both Bears and Lions
Yes.
making the playoffs?
Yep.
Okay. Kyle?
Packers, Lions, Bears, Vikings.
Oh, my. Okay. And I got Packers, Lions. I got the same as you, except I have just Detroit making the playoffs. I think Chicago's just going to miss. Okay. Do you have Detroit? Do you have any wild cards out of that division, Kyle?
Oh, the Lions are in. Green Bay and
Lions are in.
Detroit. Yep.
Okay. All right. Let us go now to the final division.
No, South. You
Oh, no, we got the South.
South,
2 more
yep.
divisions. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we got to
Let's
let's make some hay here on this one.
Let's make some hay here. Yeah, we waxed about the NFC West for a while. Okay, quickly, let's talk first about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I again, as JR said, I was all over them last year as a sexy pick for me to make the playoffs, and they shit the bed. I'm not doing that this year. Greg Schiano is going to. I like Josh Freeman, and I think Schiano is going to get this team on the right path, but it's not going to happen this year. It's not going to be a tough division. I think all 4 teams will play well against each other, but I don't like Tampa to do well outside of the division. They got a lot of bitching games out of the division. The Giants, Cowboys, the Saints, Oakland, Atlanta, the Eagles, and they don't have an easy road to hoe. So I think they're going to pick up the rear in the division and finish last. What do you think, JR?
I think they finished last, but I think they win some games. I think they go from 4 wins to about 7. Looking at the schedule, I think they can pull it off. I think last year they were really unlucky, had a lot of injuries. Josh Freeman threw a ton of picks, but I think there was some stat where he had the most picks that weren't overthrows, so meaning like bad bounces, off receivers' hand, stuff like that. They weren't bad overthrows in the league. So I like Josh Freeman. I think LeGarrette Blount's going to find himself being the third down or backup running back to Martin from Boise State. I think he's going to overtake and be the main guy. They signed Vincent Jackson, of course, so if he stays healthy. I think they take a bounce forward. I think Schiano was a great hire for them. I think he's going to turn that thing around pretty quickly down there. So I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think they're going to be feisty. And if there's any team that can make a leap, we always had that one team. We never really picked them, and we haven't yet. There's always that one team that goes, holy shit, they were 4 wins last year. They got 9 this year, and they're in the playoffs. I think Tampa could be that team.
Okay. Kyle, quickly, what do you think?
When I was at Rutgers, I knew a bunch of people, and I knew a bunch of friends that worked for their video department and other parts of the organization for a while. And this isn't any knock on Schiano, but they absolutely loathed working for the guy. They despised him to a certain degree.
Wow.
And he was a dictator. He was very, very controlling. And this is in college, mind you. So I don't think that mentality is going to cross over to the NFL very well at all.
But he has a very young team.
He does. I didn't like what I saw and what I heard when I was at Rutgers. I'm not a big believer in Tampa Bay. I'm not a big believer in Schiano, just based on what I've seen and what I've heard. I do like the Vincent Jackson pickup, but and they bring in Carl Nix from free agency, one of the best guards in the NFL. But they lose Davin Joseph at the same time, so that was a pretty big loss for them. But yeah, they're in a pretty competitive division, so they could be a little bit better this year. But in the long run, and also Doug Martin. He's going to be a pretty good player, but I'm not a believer in Schiano. Some bad blood there, so we'll see what happens. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Next up, let's talk about the Carolina Panthers, who, of course, had last year's incredible rookie, and that was, of course, Cam Newton. I think defenses are going to figure him out this year a little bit. So I think they're not gonna regress, but I don't think they're gonna progress either. They went 6-10 a year ago. I think that's exactly what they'll finish this year. They're still gonna struggle on defense. They're gonna give up a lot of points, but I think Cam Newton will keep them in games just on him alone. They have tough stretches. if they're fighting for a playoff spot at the end of the year for some reason, they got to go to New Orleans at the end. Whether they, regardless of what their mentality is, and we'll get to them in a minute. They're going to have some holes in their schedule that they're not going to be able to crawl out of. So I think Cam Newton will have a good year. I think Carolina will flatline. I think they're good for improvement in the future, but this year they're not going to improve that much. I think they're going to stay where they are. I think they'll get 6 wins.
I think they take a step back. I think this is the team everyone expects to make that leap, and everyone's kind of getting excited about because Newton was so good. But I think Newton has a tough second year. I could see him maybe getting hurt, missing a few games as well. He, he's not going to get all those touchdowns he got last year. He's not going to get all those rushing touchdowns because not only do you have D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart back, both healthy, you also brought in Mike Tolbert, who's a touchdown vulture. So I think Newton's going to see his stats come down a little bit. And, his second half was not that great last year. So we'll see if he can pick it up. But they have a very hard beginning of their schedule. They go to Tampa, which I don't think is a gimme week 1. They got New Orleans, the Giants, and Atlanta over the next 3, and then Seattle, Dallas, Chicago. So I mean, they got a tough stretch, and then later they go to Philly, and then they got Atlanta the second time at San Diego, never easy, and then at New Orleans, like you said. So I think they win 5, maybe 6 games, and their defense, I don't know if it improved so much that that's going to help them, pick up some wins that they shouldn't have. So I'm gonna put them probably. I think they finish below Tampa, honestly, this year.
Yeah, I mean, nobody expected Cam Newton to do what he did last year. He overexceeded everybody's expectations. So he's not going to sneak up on anybody this year. So it's hard to think that he's going to be better than he was in his rookie year. So he carried that team last year. So I think they need to run the football. I'm not that enthralled with their wide receiver position. Steve Smith has been banged up for the majority of camp. I do like Brandon LaFell. He could be a pretty good receiver, but we'll see with him. But yeah, I don't see them making the strides that everybody seems to think they're going to make. They're a sexy pick for a lot of analysts out there, but based on the division that they're in and the firepower that they just don't have on offense, I don't see them making the giant strides that everybody seems to think they're going to make.
Okay, let's move on now to the team that had a drastic change, and not in a good way, in the offseason, and that is the New Orleans Saints. I'll tell you, if nothing happened this offseason, nothing happened, and we were going into the season exactly the same as last year, with Steve Spagnuolo running that defense, I could have told you right now, I could have easily seen this team going 16-0. Their offense is just unstoppable machine, and their defense just needed a different direction. And I think Steve Spagnuolo, who molded a giant defense into a Super Bowl champion, would have done the same thing here. But we all know we're not going to document it. What happened this offseason? They're still going to be good, but Joe Vitt will come in week 6 or something. They got the guy Bailey coaching in the beginning. No Sean Payton. Drew Brees is still a little rankled. This team will probably still win well, I'm not picking to win the division.
No.
But they could still win. They could still win 10 games. JR, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to them in Detroit for the last wild card spot. I thought maybe they'd go 10-6, but I'm kind of looking at the schedule. They can maybe get 12 wins, so I'm starting to think maybe they will make the playoffs, and I might knock Detroit out when I kind of rethink things over. But their toughest games, San Francisco's in New Orleans, and then, of course, the split with Atlanta, and they go to the Giants. I mean, other than that, and at Green Bay. So other than that, they don't really have much else to worry about as far as tough scheduling. So I might be flipping things around. I may have them finishing second in this division and making the wild card. I'm going to take Detroit out. I think Detroit does not get in. I think New Orleans just edges them out.
Yeah. I think it's going to be too much turmoil to overcome. I really do. I don't see the.
I want to agree with it too. I want to so bad, but looking at their schedule, I don't know. I can't see them losing some of these games. Like you see them losing at Carolina, home for Kansas City, home for San Diego. I don't know. This is games I don't see them. Well, they got to have Denver too, but they got a couple swing games at Denver, home for Philly are going to be big ones for them.
Yeah. They could go either way. I mean, when you have Drew Brees at quarterback, you're gonna have a chance to win every game that you play in, but man, Sean Payton, I think that loss is really going to be seen throughout the year. He's like a quarterback on the field also, him and Drew Brees have such a good relationship. And I think that's going to affect him throughout the year in certain situations throughout games. So I don't know. I want to pick them to make the playoffs, but something's telling me that all the turmoil, all the off-season stuff is gonna catch up with them in the end, and I don't have them making the playoffs. I'm staying with Detroit, baby.
I think New Orleans will win 10 games, but I don't see them making the playoffs. I agree with you that I think Sean Payton and Breeze have this kind of mental kind of Jedi Force kind of thing going on where they read each other's minds, and that's why I think the offense runs so well. That's going to be missing.
That might help him because he wants to win it for him.
Entirely possible. I just think the whole mood of I think the NFL is going to watch them like a hawk. There's going to be a lot going on in their minds.
I've changed my mind just based on the schedule alone. I was really down on them before looking at their schedule. Now I'm like, they're so talented still, so talented. I can't see them blowing some of those games. I just don't.
Okay. All right. And finally.
I don't.
You don't, but you have a team higher than them, as do I. The Atlanta Falcons, who you and I both picked to win the World Championship last year. But that's all right. But they had a great year. They won the division. They won the wild card, made the playoffs, and they laid I watched that game with our man Dr. G, and they laid a fart bomb. That was the only legitimate Giant playoff win last year.
Yeah,
really. I love Matt Ryan. I really do. He's one of my favorite guys in this league. I think a lot of people overgrade him. Not overrate him, because they think he has talent, but overthink, wow, he's this amazingly good quarterback, but he does have some deficiencies. But I like Michael Turner, and I love Rodgers.
I don't like Michael Turner. I will say that.
And they got the kid Cones from Wisconsin. They got a couple of Wisconsin kids. Massaquoi from Troy. I like the draft. I like their draft. Their schedule is up and down. They don't have that many tough games. They got a few. But I like this team to win 12 games and win the division.
I agree. Oh, sorry.
No, sorry. Yeah. I like to. Go ahead, Kyle.
Keep screwing around.
I think Turner is actually going to take a little step back this year.
Yes.
I like Jaquez Rodgers. I think he's going to be a pretty good weapon for them in the passing game. I just think they're going to sling it all year long.
They should.
Yeah, absolutely. When they have the person,
I would.
Yeah, absolutely. When they have Julio Jones and Roddy White, I mean, why wouldn't you throw the football almost every down? And Tony Gonzalez, he said this is probably going to be his last year, so that's definitely a motivating factor for that team. I definitely think I have them winning the division as well. They're definitely going to make the playoffs, obviously. But I think Matt Ryan needs to take that next step. I feel like if Tony Romo, not to talk about the Cowboys, but if Tony Romo was on Atlanta, I feel like Romo would be getting a lot more criticism because Matt Ryan hasn't won a playoff game yet. So, I think he needs to take that next step. And I think this is the year that he does it. I think he's going to win the division. They have so much firepower on offense. And I think that they're going to carry that team this year. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think they will win the division. I think, and this is funny to say because they have such relatively young team, but I think the window's closing a little bit as far as this core goes. And like you said, Gonzalez is going to retire, but I love Julio Jones. I love Roddy White. Jones missed a bunch of games last year, but still had 1,000 yards just about and 8 touchdowns, and Roddy White caught 100 balls. And I like Matt Ryan. Looking at their schedule, I think they can win 12 to 13 games. I think they win this division, and this is the year that they need to win a couple playoff games, because if not, I think there's going to be a few shakeups. They can't keep, it's great to win divisions and great to make playoffs, but you got to start winning playoff games at some point, and doing something more than just, farting out in the first round. So they need to take that next step. That is their next step in line. So, but I do like the Falcons. I do think they win the division.
Tough place to play in the Georgia Dome too.
Yes.
I was surprised, but I don't want to say surprised, but I didn't think Green Bay would just come in, in the playoffs the year they won the Super Bowl and just kind of hand it to them. I really thought it'd be more competitive. So they need to take advantage of that home field advantage in the Georgia Dome, because if they get home field, I mean, it's going to be a tough place to play in.
Okay, so we are in agreement on the top 2 teams. We all like the Falcons at number 1. We all like the Saints at number 2. Kyle, do you like Carolina, Tampa Bay in that order?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so and I do too, and JR, you like it in reverse, right?
Yeah,
Tampa,
I like Tampa,
third, Carolina fourth.
Yep.
And we all have the Falcons in the division, but you have the Saints snagging the wild card from Detroit.
Yeah, I'm flipping that around just based on the Saints schedule.
Not you though, Kyle. You don't have New Orleans making the playoffs.
No.
Okay. All right. Finally. We get to the NFC East.
Roll.
All right. We'll start with the Redskins. They're going to have an interesting year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I originally was thinking, wow, Robert Griffin III is going to have the same kind of year Cam Newton did last year. I disagree. I don't think there's as much. There's talent in the skill positions in Washington, but their offensive line is still very shaky. Their defense is okay. They're going to give up a lot of points again. I guarantee you, Robert Griffin and Mike Shanahan are going to get in some kind of scrum at some point this season because Shanahan's not going to put up with something.
Shanahan better not because he's the one that's going to go. So
I agree. I'm not disagreeing with him. I'm just saying that I think something's going to come from that. I think he's going to be fun to watch, but the Redskins will finish last. What do you think, JR?
I agree. I think they'll be fun. I think they're going to finish last, but I think it's going to be tight. I think they may get to 8 wins. I do like them. I think they're headed in the right direction. They need to get something set though with the running game. They switch guys every game. Who's Roy Haley, Evan Royster. It's always someone different. Seems to be the guy in charge. But they overhauled their receivers a little bit. They brought in Pierre Garçon, who I think is going to have a pretty good year. Fred Davis, I think, is going to have a monster year. I think you're going to see a lot of Griffin checkdowns to him in the flat, and I think with a little luck and a few breaks, they could maybe finish third in this division. But they'll probably back clean up here. But I think they'll be much better than last year.
Okay, Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the Deadskins, and I like saying that Deadskins. I just want to say it twice. Is Pierre Garçon? Is he a number 1 wide receiver?
No.
Yeah, I don't think
they
so.
overpaid him for sure, but it's still a good pickup.
Yeah, it is a good pickup for him. It gives RG3 a veteran receiver there, but when you had Peyton Manning throwing you the ball that Garçon did in Indy, you don't know what he's going to do with a rookie. So, yeah. I don't know about D'Angelo Hall. There are just a lot of question marks on the defensive side of the ball, but I do like the Arakpo and Kerrigan tandem and outside linebacker. I think that's one of the best outside linebacker tandems in the league, actually. But other than that, I don't see that much going for them this year. I think they could be one of those teams that gets better as the year goes on, just because of the rookie progression with RG3. I think he's gonna start out pretty rough, because of the offense that he ran in college. So it could be a little bit of a transition for him. But, I hate the Redskins.
Join the club. All right, let's talk now about another team that I think over time I've hated even more, but we'll talk objectively about them, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. Michael Vick is going to have another one of those years. He's going to be running for his life. The offensive line struggled last year. They've been a little bit better in the preseason this year. But that defense is not as good as everybody thinks they are. And I think they're going to struggle to score points. I think McCoy's going to have a good year. I think LaShawn McCoy will have a good year. But I think Vic's going to struggle to get the ball down the field. And I think the offensive line is going to break down a little bit. So I think they'll be slightly better than the Redskins. And I think they'll battle for a playoff spot towards week like 12 or 13. But I don't see these guys sustaining 16 games with Michael Vick at quarterback. At some point, he's going to flush out of the pocket and get whacked and be done. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, it comes down to Vick. Is he going to play 16 games? I know everybody's on the Nick Foles bandwagon, but preseason, come on. Even the bus driver quarterbacks could look good in the preseason. So you can't put too much merit into that. I think it'll be a solid backup. But it comes down to Vic, and I think it was a big loss for them when they lost Jason Peters, their left tackle. I know they picked up Demetrius Bell from the Bills, I believe, but some question marks on the offensive line. Deshaun Jackson got his contract. Is he going to pack it in now that he's paid? Can Macklin stay healthy with his hamstring injury? Some question marks. I do like their defensive line, though. I think they're pretty much stacked on the defensive line. But if the defensive line can make up for the deficiencies in the secondary, I think that gives them a chance to be improved on defense, because they totally crapped the bed last year on defense, and Vic was throwing picks. He was running for his life. So if they can't protect Vic and he doesn't stay healthy, I have them being competitive. I don't see them being eliminated from the playoffs until late in the year, but I don't have them making the playoffs.
What do you think, JR?
This is going to be unpopular with this group, but I think they win the division. And I think a lot of things went wrong for them, and they got a lot of unlucky bounces last year. And I think they're just better than that. And I think just to assume that Vic is going to get hurt is just a little bit of, I don't know, just not much behind it other than just wishful thinking in a way, I think. I mean, yes, he plays a little bit reckless, and yes, it does tend to maybe happen, but doesn't mean it's going to happen again next year. Based on protection and different things they do. So I think they're better prepared this year if he does get hurt. I'm not going to say Nick Foles is going to be, a Hall of Famer, but he's better than Vince Young. I can say that much. So if anything does happen, they're in a little bit better shape. I love LaShawn McCoy. I do like Jeremy Maclin. Sean Jackson's got to get his act together and have a good year. I like Selleck as well. I think the defense way underperformed last year, but I think they'll turn it up a little bit this year. I think they have a little bit of a chip. I think they're going to play for Andy Reid after everything he went through in the offseason. I like their schedule. I'm not going to say they're going to win 12, 13 games. I think 10 to 11 is going to get it done in this division, and I think they end up like they do a lot of years. They steal it at the end, and you're like, look back at the end of the year and like, how the fuck did this team win 10 games and win the division? But there they are in the playoffs.
Okay. Let's move on now to the defending world champion, New York Football Giants. The only team in this division that really didn't add anything to their team. Really, the team is no different than a year ago.
No, with David Wilson and they lost Manningham. That's pretty much.
Pretty much it. And they don't have Brandon Jacobs anymore.
Yeah.
They sleptwalk through 17 games and then again won 3 playoff games. I'm not discounting that, but I'm just saying that let's not go in here thinking this team's going to win 14 games because they're the defending world champions. I think this team's going to regress and not make the playoffs. I think this team's going to be just like they were after they won the Super Bowl the year before, the last time. They're going to get off to a hot start, and then something bad's going to happen, and they're going to falter down the stretch and not make the playoffs. I think Eli Manning
they have a tough end of their schedule.
They have a brutal end of their schedule. Look at this gauntlet they've got. After the bye week, they got the Packers at home, at Washington, and mind you, folks, they swept the Giants last year.
Mm-hmm.
Right. New Orleans at home, at Atlanta, at Baltimore, home to the Eagles.
And before that bye, they're home for Pitt at Cincy. I mean, that's not easy either.
Yeah. So that's a gauntlet, and that might be a lot. That might be a little bit too much to overcome this year. Kyle, what do you think?
I'm gonna take off my homerism hat. I'm taking it off. I'm placing it next to me right here. The Giants are gonna win this division. Okay. I look back to when they won the Super Bowl in 2007. They got hot at the end. They made their run in the playoffs, beat the Patriots. The very next year, they won 13 games. And I think they just have so much confidence right now. And I know that the Giants could be so inconsistent, but I see them playing with a lot of confidence. No team has lost a Thursday night home opener. And
this one's out Wednesday.
Wednesday night, right. But the opening game of the season, I hate to say it, I love my boys, but I had the Giants winning this division. I know their schedule does look kind of tough, but it is kind of easier in the beginning. They play Tampa, Cleveland, Carolina. They play the Redskins at home, so there are some winnable games in the beginning, and they play Dallas opening night. We'll see what happens there, but it's gonna be interesting. But I think Eli is just playing with a lot of confidence right now. And I do like David Wilson. I think he's going to be the starter by midseason at the very least. And I see him winning the East. Damn it.
I will say quickly, I like Randall too. That was drafted from LSU. But sorry, JR, go ahead.
I think they'll take a step back. I think they were lucky last year. Honestly, I don't think I think if Miles Austin catches that ball, if Victor Cruz doesn't break that 90-yard touchdown run, if they beat Green Bay pretty well. They go they definitely earned that victory, and then with the Patriot game is a Patriot game. So I think they had a lot of lucky breaks. I think they could have been eliminated a few times along the way, and even the San Fran game really, they a couple bad bounces away from being eliminated there. So this is a team that really, and kudos to them, they earned it. I'm not saying they didn't earn it. I don't want anyone jumping down my throat. I'm just saying I don't think they were necessarily the best team last year, and like you said, they're pretty much bringing the same group back, and they have an easy beginning, but a tough finish. And I see this team capping out at 9 wins again, which puts them even as last year. I just think Philly's going to be one game better. So I think the Giants go 8-8, 9-7, and I think they miss the playoffs just because the Bears and the Saints are going to be so tough. I don't think they can beat them.
Okay. All right, and finally, let us talk about the star.
Do you want me to go first, and then you guys can just rant?
Go right ahead.
Okay. Yeah, last year I was all in on your Cowboys. This year, not so much. I think they have way too many injuries. Romo is going to be running for his life behind that offensive line. I like DeMarco Murray, but can he stay healthy? Des Bryant, God knows what he's got going on. He's got, Secret Service following him around day and night. Jason Witten, can he come back from the spleen injury? Miles Austin, love him, can't stay healthy. So they have a lot to prove. They've shored up the defense a little bit. We'll see if it takes. They have a pretty up and down schedule. I think they finish right around where the Giants finish again. I think they go about 8-8, and I think Jason Garrett's done. So go ahead, have fun.
Who wants to go first?
Kyle, you go ahead. You're the visiting team.
Okay. Well, Tony Romo played well enough to make the playoffs last year. He played well. 31 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He played well. Tony Romo was not the problem in Dallas. It was the defense and the offensive line that he was he was playing well in spite of. So I think that Jerry believes that he brought in Mackenzie Bernardo and Nate Livings at guard to be those bigger guards that are going to supposedly make Phil Costa better. But can you really hide deficiencies in a player? I'm not sold on Phil Costa as a starting center. I think that interior line is going to be a problem. There's not one player, with the exception of Costa, that is playing in the same position on the offensive line that they were last year, because they switched Free and Smith at the tackles, and then they brought in the two new guards, and they kept the incumbent in Costa. So I think the offensive line, and not to mention, they have not played one game together yet. So I think there's going to be some cohesiveness problems in terms of protection, and that doesn't match up well against a team like the Giants that like to play to their strengths, which is their defensive line. So I'm very concerned about that. I think they definitely made improvements in the secondary. I think I could have played better than Terrence Newman last year. So I'm very happy that they got rid of Tinu. Brandon Carr's had an outstanding training camp. I'm very excited about Brandon Carr. Morris Claiborne, he's going to have his growing pains, but I think he's going to be better as the year goes on. Is Mike Jenkins going to get back healthy? He has an appointment with the doctor tomorrow, I believe, to see if he's going to be cleared for practice. So if he gets cleared, that could be a nice boost to the secondary also. So I think we're pretty much okay in the secondary. I like Barry Church. He had a very strong training camp, and that's going to make sense of ball better. But Romo, he's going to do his thing. I think he's really maturing as a player. Dez, Miles, some injury concerns there, obviously, with Dez with the knee and Miles with the hamstring. But Miles says he's going to be ready. He said he was going to be ready last year against the Jets, and he played well. But then the next game against San Fran, he nicked up his hamstring, and he was out for a couple games after that. So he needs to stay healthy. In terms of the linebackers, Anthony Spencer, man, come on. There's a reason why they call you Almost Anthony. Please. Get a sack for once. Don't almost get there, And D. Ware has had a hamstring problem also. So it seems like, what can go wrong does go wrong with this team in terms of the key players that they need. With Jay Ratliff with the high ankle sprain now, they don't know if he's going to be ready. With that being said, I think we're going to get healthy as the year goes on. I think we're going to get better as a team as the year goes on. I like what Jason Garrett is instilling in this team in terms of confidence and establishing an identity. We're not Camp Cupcake anymore. He ran a pretty tough training camp, and I'm excited about him as the head coach. Yes, he does need some help with game management at times, but I think Bill Callahan, the new assistant head coach, offensive line coach, is going to definitely help with that. So I think there are some definite parts of this team that are going to get better as the year goes on. I like the defense. We're going to be a lot better than last year, and I think that was our main Achilles heel along with the offensive line. So the offensive line could develop some cohesiveness as the year goes on, keep Romo upright, let him find his weapons. Jason Witten's spleen, please heal. Okay, we need that spleen. Sean Lee is becoming our defensive leader, even over Ware. I think he's a beast in the middle there. Bruce Carter needs to develop, but I think we're going to make a wild card. I really do. I see the Cowboys going 10-6. They're my other wild card. I have Dallas and Detroit as the wild cards, and I think they're going to make a run at the very end.
Okay, I'm going to be as brief but informative as I can. Offensively, Tony Romo had a lot more time last year than people think. I mean, to throw over 4,100 yards and 31 touchdowns takes a lot, even with a patchwork offensive line. Except for that one crappy pick against Revis in Week 1. He didn't really throw a lousy pass for a while. What killed the Cowboys was Jason Garrett's inexperience in the last 2 minutes of games, and Rob Ryan thinking that a defense like that, which relies on speed blitzes, can be covered against 4 unbelievably atrocious guys in the secondary.
Right.
No team in the NFC East made bigger changes than the Cowboys did. They signed the guy from Kansas City to fill the hole in the secondary, and they drafted who I think could easily make the kind of impact that Revis did with the Jets, and that's Mo Claiborne. I think even with a wrist that's it's healing, this guy is an attacker. He's fast. He'll be close to guys' top receivers, and I think that will make things a little different for quarterbacks trying to avoid that Cowboy blitz. It was easy to avoid it the first time last year because the secondary was so bad, guys were open all the time. That's not going to be the case this year, and I think that Rob Ryan has spent this preseason adjusting that defense to his strengths, like Ware, like Spencer, Ratliff, and Lee, and guys that are going to get through the holes and make life miserable for quarterbacks because now they have a secondary that's not going to allow deep passing routes or allow the seam to be wide open and run through it. And I think that's going to be the key for the Cowboys this year. Yep. And I am slightly being a little bit of a homer. But I think they will eke out, and I mean eke out. I'm not saying they're going to win 15 games, but I think they will eke out the division. Barely. They play the Redskins on the road week 17. That will not be easy, and they do have the Saints the week before that. So it's not going to be easy down the stretch. But I do think that they can win games in the middle of the year, and I think DeMarco Murray will stay healthy, and I think they will finish 10-6. I think the Giants will finish 9-7, and I think the Cowboys win the division.
They got to stay healthy, and
I think they will.
Yeah,
I think they will.
And now Rob Ryan has the corners to let him do what he does on defense. He could actually blitz and expect the secondary to hold up. I think Barry Church is going to be 10 times better than Abe Elam was last year.
Exactly, I agree.
Yeah, and the Cowboys, they developed him. Barry Church, undrafted free agent from Toledo. Yep. He's ready for this opportunity. He's hungry. He's ready to make an impact. And When was the last time as a Cowboys fan you could just think, I think the safeties will be okay this year?
That's for sure.
Has it been Roy Williams was drafted in 2002 with Darren Woodson? That's kind of sad, but I
love the kid Crawford from Boise State, that defensive end. He's made some pretty good strides in the preseason, so I think he'll be a good guy off the bench, maybe some third down situations.
Definitely.
If Rob Ryan can get some flexibility on the front seven, maybe mix and match some guys to just the blitz packages, I think they'll be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I have Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, Redskins. Kyle, I'm assuming you have Giants, Cowboys, Eagles, Redskins.
That's correct.
JR, what do you have?
Eagles, Giants, Cowboys, Redskins.
Okay. All right. There's your divisions. All right, let's quickly go through the awards. We only have 3. MVP. I think it will be back-to-back for Aaron Rodgers. I'll just leave it at that. JR,
I think Tom Brady.
Kyle?
Matt Ryan.
Okay.
Ballsy.
You know what? I'll take that pick if it helps the Falcons. I'll take that. All right, Rookie of the Year. I'll go in another order. JR.
Go to Kyle. Let me think about it for a sec.
Okay, Kyle, Rookie of the Year.
I'm going to go with Andrew Luck.
Okay. I think Trent Richardson.
No, I don't think he's going to play enough. I don't think he's going to play enough. I'm going to say Griffin steals it from Luck.
Very possible.
Griffin. Okay. 3 different ones. Okay. Coach of the Year. Kyle.
John Fox.
Ooh.
Okay.
Sneaky pick.
JR.
I am going to say Lovie Smith. No. You know what? They're not going to win enough, and they're not going to have enough of a bounce back. Let's go with Gary Kubiak.
Actually, that's what I was taking too.
I like that one.
Gary Kubiak. I originally was going to say Pete Carroll, but if the Texans do as well as you and I are, as all 3 of us really are thinking they are, there's no reason why he doesn't win Coach of the Year. All right, let's do this. JR, we'll start with you. Give me 1 to 6 your AFC and NFC picks. We'll start in the NFC. 1 to so who do you have as your 4 division winners and in the order that they're seeded?
All right. I think Atlanta's the 1 seed. No, Green Bay's the 1 seed. Atlanta's the 2. So there are your buys.
Okay.
San Fran 3rd, Philly 4.
Okay. And your 2 wild cards were
New Orleans
Chicago
and
New
Chicago.
Orleans.
Yeah.
In what order?
In that order.
So Chicago gets the 5?
No, New Orleans gets the 5.
No, so New Orleans gets a 5, and Chicago gets a 6. All right, so your wild card games, Bears go to San Francisco, right? It's 3. Is it 3? It's 3, 6, 4, 5, right?
Yep.
Okay, so Bears go to San Francisco.
I think the Bears win that game.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I think San Fran's
All right.
going to take a step back.
Okay. And the Eagles go, or the Saints go to the Link.
I'll take the Eagles there.
Wow.
No, take the Saints. Both road teams go and win.
Okay. So that means the Bears go to Lambeau. Wow. Well, 2 years ago they played in the NFC Championship. Now the divisional playoff.
I take Green Bay.
Okay.
I think Chicago's a year away from making a serious run, but I think this is a big jump for them.
Okay. And the Saints go to the Georgia Dome.
Big game there. Atlanta's got to win a playoff game, so I'll take them. They have to win one.
Okay. So your NFC Championship game is a rematch of the wild card game 2 years ago, and that is the Falcons going to Lambeau to play the Packers. Except 2 years ago the game was reversed.
Yes, I like Green Bay to go to the Super Bowl.
Okay. All right. Give me your seedings 1 to 6 in the AFC.
New England 1, Houston 2, Baltimore 3, Denver 4, Pitt 5, Jets 6.
Okay. All right. That means that you have the Jets going to Baltimore. That might be a pretty good game, actually.
Yeah, as much as I want to take the Jets, I think Baltimore wins. I can't see. They never do well against Baltimore. Baltimore is their bête noire, so I think they'd almost be better off having Pitt finish ahead of Baltimore if they made the wild card. I think they have more success going into Pitt than they do Baltimore, but
Okay.
I'll take Baltimore to move on there.
All right. And a rematch of let's see. Yeah, and a rematch of week 1, the Steelers go to Denver.
In a rematch of the playoffs last year.
That's right.
I
I don't think the Steelers will give up a long bomb in the overtime again.
No, I think Steelers get revenge and beat Manning at home.
Okay. Which means you have the Steelers going to New England.
And I think the Patriots win that game.
Okay. And how about this rematch? The Ravens go to Houston.
Houston gets their revenge.
Nice.
Okay. So your AFC championship has the Houston Texans going to the Razor Blade to take
And they
on
win.
the
Houston
Pats.
is healthy this year, and they knocked the Pats off in a big upset.
Okay. So your Super Bowl, I can't believe we're going to do this again. The Green Bay Packers and the Houston Texans.
Yes, and I like Green Bay to go back to winning the Super Bowl. I think Houston gives them a game, though. I think they give them a game.
Okay. All right. Let me go to another page very quickly. All right. Kyle,
Yes.
give me your 6 seeds. Give me your 6 seeds, 1 through 6 in the AFC.
AFC, I have Houston as the 1.
Okay.
I have New England as the 2. Denver as the 3.
Okay.
And Baltimore as the 4.
Okay. And your wild cards, Cincinnati and Kansas City.
I have the Chiefs as the 5 seed and the Bengals.
Oh my God!
Yep.
What's wrong with you?
Dexter.
All right.
Dexter.
Okay, which means your wild card games. This is kind of fascinating, though. The Cincinnati Bengals will go to Denver to play the Broncos.
And I have the Broncos winning that game.
Okay. And then Kansas City goes to Baltimore. Didn't they play a wild card game, 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think they did.
They played in Kansas City, and I think the Ravens beat the crap out of them. So.
That's right.
All right, so the Chiefs this time go to Baltimore.
And Baltimore will beat the crap out of them again.
Okay. All right, so you have the top 4 advancing. So you have the Ravens going to Houston to play the Texans.
And Houston will get their revenge.
Okay, so Baltimore's out. All right, and then you have Denver. All right, Denver going to New England. So once again, Peyton Manning, different colors, same scenario. He's got to beat Tom Brady at Gillette.
Denver gets the upset in New England. Peyton Manning goes back to the AFC Championship.
Okay, so your AFC Championship is the Denver Broncos and the Houston Texans at Reliant.
And the Houston Texans, for the first time in franchise history, going to the Super Bowl.
Okay. All right, give me your 1 through 6 ranking, your 1 through 6 seedings in the NFC.
The 1 seed is Atlanta. 3 seed is the Giants.
Okay.
4 seed is San Fran.
Okay.
Detroit, 5 seed. And Dallas, 6.
Okay. Wow. You do realize what you just set up here.
Yep.
The Cowboys go to the Snoopy Bowl for the wild card game. I
They're
like
gonna
the way you think.
They're going to get their revenge from this following Wednesday night because the Giants are going to take the game next Wednesday, but we're going to beat them when it counts.
Okay. And, fun game here. You have the Lions going out to San Francisco.
The Lions get the upset. Both road teams win.
Okay. Both road teams win. So the Niners and the Giants both out. All right. Which means the Cowboys go to the Georgia Dome to play the Falcons.
Dallas gets one more playoff win in Jason Garrett's era.
Okay. Which means the Falcons go to... I'm sorry, the Lions go to Green Bay.
For this, Detroit... Both wild cards are going to play in the NFC Championship.
Oh my God! So you've
Green Bay.
got the Dallas Cowboys going to Ford Field in the NFC Championship game.
Matthew Stafford's going to the Super Bowl.
Wow! So your Super Bowl is the Houston Texans and the Detroit Lions. Really? Wow!
Just like the Miz. Really?
Really? And Gary Kubiak Matt Schaub hoists the trophy.
Matthew Stafford to Calvin Johnson gets the trophy.
Wow. You're crazy.
The
You are.
Detroit Lions are making a run.
Wow. I can't believe this.
They're going to get hot.
Wow, this is stunning. I'm
you got
stunned.
No
All right.
baby.
Okay. All right. Time for my picks. All right. In the AFC, top to bottom, I have the 1 seed is Houston. The 2 seed is New England. The 3 seed is Baltimore. The 4 seed is Oakland. And my 2 wild card picks, let's see. Let me just double check. The 5 seed is Pittsburgh, and the 6 seed is Buffalo. Which means Buffalo goes to Baltimore to play the Ravens. And I think Fitzpatrick will have a fun game, but I think the Raven defense will shut him down in the fourth quarter. Pittsburgh then goes to Oakland in an old school 70s bar fist fight, and I like the Raiders to win that game. So the Raiders will go to Houston to play the Texans, and I think they'll get throttled. And the Ravens go to New England, and they will get revenge and knock the Patriots out. So your AFC championship will be my AFC championship will be the Ravens going into Houston to play the Texans. And I think Joe Flacco takes the next step, but not this one. He will lose in the AFC championship, and the Texans go to the Super Bowl. All right, in the NFC, my top to bottom picks, Green Bay 1, Atlanta 2, San Francisco 3, Dallas 4, and my wild card picks, Detroit at the 5, Seattle at the 6. Which means Seattle goes to San Francisco in a double rematch from the regular season, and I think Seattle pulls off the upset.
Ooh.
Detroit goes to Dallas to play the Cowboys. And it's funny, you don't have them winning the division, I do, but you have more faith in them in the playoffs than I do. I think Detroit would win that game.
Wow.
Which means that the Seahawks would go to Green Bay to play the Packers, and I think they would get creamed. And Detroit goes to Atlanta, and I think that would be an awesome indoor shootout. But I think the Falcons win. So I have the same NFC championship as my partner. The Atlanta Falcons go to Lambeau Field in a great game, but I think Aaron Rodgers atones for last year's abysmal effort and goes to the Super Bowl. So I have the exact same Super Bowl as my PIC.
Oh, again
Green
this
Bay
year?
Packers and the Atlanta and the Green Bay Packers and the Houston Texans, but I have a different result. Gary Kubiak will hoist the Vince Lombardi Trophy.
So all 3 of us have Houston in the Super Bowl.
Yes, we all have the Texans.
That means they're going to win 5 games.
Which means Matt Schaub's going to get hurt again. Arian Foster will get caught with gambling or something, and some weird shit's going to happen. But all right, so to quickly do our Super Bowl recaps, JR and both have Packers and Texans. He has Green Bay winning. I have Houston winning. And Kyle, who obviously has been sipping Grill Monsoon's joy juice, has the Lions and the Texans in the Super Bowl, and he has the Lions going off the list of. Actually, it's funny, Kyle. You have two teams that have never even been to the Super Bowl, much less won one.
That's true.
So somebody will get knocked off the list of teams that have never won the big one. And I have it with so JR is the only one that has an old school establishment team making it all the way to the end. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, that was a. I'm sorry, that was a
good sprint turned into a marathon.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, that was a good, lengthy episode, and yeah, that's it. I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. So it was a lot of fun. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be talking a lot of football throughout the season. Each week, we'll be doing our weekly predictions as well, Scott, as we've talked about.
Yes, of course.
Oh, it's gonna be a blast. I cannot wait for football to start.
Oh, me neither.
And Mr. Forchetti, we look forward to having you back on Survivor Series 97, correct?
Absolutely. I'll talk to you guys then.
All right. Take care, Kyle.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Kyle.
All right.
All right, Scott. This one's in the books. I think it may actually pass our last year's baseball preview.
Yes,
we're
exactly.
well over 2 hours, though.
Except we're ending at a little after 11 instead of a little after 3.
Yes.
It's a little different, so.
Yeah, so this is a fun time. It was good to get back into football. Looking forward to the season. Good to have Kyle on, as always. Really knows his stuff. So, Scott, we'll be back Monday night, King of the Ring 97. That was there live, so a lot to talk about.
Yes.
We'll have our Week 1 NFL picks. And we will have the fourth and final quarterfinal trivia matchup between the big showdown, Jeremy Nichols, Derek Cornett.
Yes.
Next Thursday, we'll have part 2 with Bruno Lauer. Looking forward to that as well.
Oh, I am so looking forward to that.
Yeah,
So
part 1 is a lot of fun. If you haven't listened to it, go ahead, because part 2 is coming next week. So this is it for the weekend, for this week, rather. Have a great weekend, PTB Nation. We'll be back at you Monday from Providence, the Dunkin' Donuts Center, for King of the Ring 97. Take care.
Worship the star.
Please fuck the star.